We are live. Welcome aboard, everyone. It is your host and conductor on this wild ride, Demetrius Villa. Hello, how are you all doing tonight? It's going to be a doozy tonight, and we are here. Yes, we are. Hello, Argos. Hello, Parrish. Hello, Eric Gustafson. Hello, Ivan. Yes, we are ready for another ARC exclusive live stream, and it is going to be a pretty crazy one indeed. Let's see. It is gonna be pretty crazy today, looking at all this stuff. Hello, Osman, Stefan, Matt. Hello, GN. Wow, we got a lot of people on today. Grambo, Julius. Alright, and Stefan. Okay. Well, everyone, it is Sunday, August 1st. Yeah, it is August 1st. Alright, August the 1st, 2021. And currently, in the U.S. Senate, there is a debate, or about to happen, a debate that they voted on to start a debate on on this 1,934 page, I believe, infrastructure bill. Don't worry, it's 1,000 pages of it are basically fluff. And good thing it's double spaced, as your teacher wanted you to have it. Yes. But, I mean, what is in the bill? We're going to look at that. We're going to look at some reactions to that, looking at what the media has said about this bill and what other bloggers have said. But, of course, we cannot always trust the media all the time with this, because if we look at what the media sometimes says, according to the media, this is an Amtrak GE Genesis P42. I'm not kidding. This is a Business Insider article, believe owned by like two other companies, a German media company that makes like $3 billion or is worth $3 billion. So yeah, multi-billion-dollar company can't tell the difference between a locomotive and a coach car or a viewliner. But hey, that's what we're dealing with over here. Oh, hello, Sun Pixel. Thank you. Yeah, that was an epic fail by Business Insider. Can you believe that? But thank you so much for that super chat. So yeah, let's get into this, because this is going to be a doozy. And I did tell you guys, do get a drink, and we're going to cut through all the mess of this infrastructure bill. So we're going to need something special. We're going to need Neon Viking. I have actually tried this before. It's actually pretty good. It's from up in Muncie, Indiana, here in the Hoosier State. So we're going to try that, and we're going to go on in, because as I said before, guys, the biggest problem here in the United States is the waste of money that we spend for our infrastructure. It's not really that we're not making infrastructure. Well, that's one part of it. It's that when we spend money on infrastructure, it's highly expensive. I mean, we keep bringing up examples of like the Q Avenue subway line, which was a $4 billion 2-mile extension of the MTA subway in New York along Q Avenue. Along the Q, along 2nd Avenue. And $2 billion a mile for what? Meanwhile, everybody in the rest of the world is spending, several $1 million per mile and whatnot. It is very, very ridiculously expensive. By the way, and if you guys are interested, you are welcome aboard to come on Discord and voice your opinions on this big, fat American infrastructure bill. So let's get in it. So starting on page 1,346. Now, I'm not going to go through all of it, guys. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I am going to go through most of the stuff that is pertinent, okay? And we're talking about all the pertinent stuff over here. I've made several notes, and I've looked through a lot of it, at least to go ahead and see. This is why we didn't have the live stream yesterday. So let's stop dallying and get into it. So, funny enough, this part, Division D of the rail, there's a whole lot of parts into this. Okay, so it's, of course, roads, bridges, broadband, electric cars, all of that is pushed into one giant infrastructure bill, which I highly disagree with that, because in reality, you need to have it separated, right? We need to have just one train bill, just road bill, so it can just be hashed out specifically what are the goals for each. Because the problem with this bill, which you're going to see in most bills, have these sort of issues, which we'll go into. So let's see. Yes, what page? Yes, 1,346. This is a nearly 2,000-page, $1 trillion bill. It is insane. So this division may be cited as the Transforming Rail by Accelerating Investment Nationwide Act, or the TRAIN Act. It makes me want to just shoot myself sometimes, although suicide is very bad. But whoever comes up with these acronyms, it's insane. Transforming Rail by Accelerating Investment Nationwide Act. Oh, don't worry. We'll get into BEST, which is bridges, tunnels, and bridges, stations, and tunnels. The best inventory for what Amtrak should be working on. But yeah, this is the several billions that they're going to get appropriated for each year. So Amtrak is focusing on the Northeast Corridor. So about $2 to $3 billion every year. And this is going to be appropriated by the Secretary of Transportation, who is currently Pete Buttigieg from South Bend, Indiana. And again, I can understand why people... there's somebody here. Speaking of cars, I can understand why people... it was just a car next door. Somebody's just messing around with it. I can understand why people aren't too happy about Pete Buttigieg being a transportation secretary. But I mean, compared to Elaine Chao, I mean, I guess it is a improvement than Elaine Chao, because she only got Department of Transportation secretary because her husband was the Senate Majority Leader at the time. Let's be honest, nepotism runs rampant, anywhere, but mainly in D.C. So what we're looking at in here, really, is a little bit of a cut from the last bill. So Amtrak in total is not going to get as much as it needs. And here's the other thing. So high-speed rail corridor planning. This is another one. The Secretary shall withhold at least 4% of funding in paragraph 1. So paragraph 1 was back over here. So 4% of this $2 billion, which is not even, of course, not even $1 billion. It's about $40 million for high-speed rail planning, which is not much of anything. All right, this is ridiculous. Argos with the super chat. Thank you so much. Anything for high-speed rail between LA and San Diego? So far, not yet. The California High-Speed Rail Authority has not updated on what they're going to do with that. They are focusing solely on the Central Valley region. Until that is finished, the rest of California is not going to see high-speed rail until that is finished. And there's a little bit here of California high-speed rail, but not as much as you think it is. I didn't go into that as much, but the thing is, again, there's not that much. And it basically, what this bill does to make up for space is rehash a lot of the older codes. So when you see this, like for example, Section 22907 of Title 49 United States Code, the United States House of Representatives in Congress, they have basically a whole bunch of laws, okay? And I've actually seen these codes, like some lawyers that I've worked with have actually the whole collection, or representatives that I've worked with. They actually have a whole, it's a whole library. Think of this entire wall filled with books. Multiply that by 5. That is the United States codes. That's how much laws we have in this country. And again, a lot of these laws are redundant. But that's what it is. I mean, you have to have law and order, right? Law and order. Actual law and order, not just tweeting law and order as a certain president has in the past. It's been that long already. So you have the railroad rehabilitation and improvement financing. Again, rehashing RRIF loans, all of that. But what really gets to me is on, I believe, 1362. Let's get into this and stop having a headache and take a drink if you have a chance. So the Rail Trust Fund. So I found this interesting, that in the bill itself, basically comes out with a mea culpa from the United States government of how much they effed up in terms of passenger rail infrastructure. So the Rail Trust Fund defined in this subsection, the term Rail Trust Fund means a trust fund established under the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 for making certain expenditures for the benefit of rail and for crediting certain taxes and penalties collecting relating to rail. So what that means is basically a rail trust fund. It's how much they're going to give to rail based on the United States Code, sense of committee, and on need for rail trust fund. So this is the United States basically going ahead and realizing, and they're just basically going ahead and saying, yes, we messed up with rail. So this is basically confessing to it, if you want to say it. The following is the sense of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure of the House of Representatives. There is a discrepancy in historical federal investment between highways, aviation, and intercity passenger rail. Between 1949 and 2017, the federal government invested more than $2 trillion in our nation's highways. It's a lot more than $2 trillion. It's around $5 trillion. $2 trillion was basically the initial cost of that. And they're not actually adjusting that for inflation either. So it's more like above $5 trillion when you combine not just the federal government, but also the states' funding for increasing the amount of roads and also repairing roads. So it's expensive. And over $777 billion in aviation. And we know from WikiLeaks that the United States government has been giving billions of dollars to not just domestic airlines, but also foreign airlines as well to serve the United States. Again, when we talk about this and we talk about the stimulus and the amount of money that the United States government has put into all these other projects, a lot of people who say, oh, well, the free market will fix it and all that. The problem is when the free market does this, the free market is going to go ahead and push for highways and aviation because the free market cares about money. But then you go to the other side of it, well, the government can go ahead and do all this and the government should plan all this. Well, when the government plans all this, it doesn't plan ahead that much, especially in our society and our democratic process. This is kind of the issue, is that we have very short-term limits in comparison to the lifespan of the country or the lifespan of generations, right? So every 4 years, everybody's just going to be clamoring to go ahead and say, well, I did this and I did that and I'll promise this. It's more like I promised this and I promised that. There's not much of I did anything. So the federal government has invested only $96 billion in intercity passenger rail starting in 1971 with the creation of National Railroad Passenger Corporation. That's Amtrak. 1971 in the Nixon administration. By the way, if you guys have noticed the thumbnail of this video, we have Bill from Schoolhouse Rock, the Bill, but he's an American Bill, as you can tell. He's got his burger. I don't know if you guys have seen the thumbnail. He's got his burger and his Chevy Silverado to go 2 blocks to go to McDonald's to get his giant burger. And that's his exercise, getting in and out of the Chevy Silverado that's lifted up 5 feet in the air. Intercity passenger rail federal investment is only 12% of federal aviation investment and less than 5% of federal highway investment. So again, the amount, and it's staying here the proportion. Again, it's the investment in Amtrak in total is a little bit more than this. Again, the federal government is making it look like we didn't spend that much money, but they have. They spent a little bit more on Amtrak. A lot of the other costs on Amtrak put onto there was and is from the states in order to keep Amtrak running in some of the state-run routes. A lot of people keep asking if when is California High-Speed Rail going to be completed? At this point, we're going to see maybe the Central Valley at 2027 to 29. California's a whole mess. All right, we can only speculate. California is, it's getting things done. There are things getting done, but it is not as fast as you think it's going to be. That's an issue. So Congress has recognized the value and importance of a predictable, dedicated funding source through a trust fund for all other modes of transportation, including for aviation, highways, transit, and waterways, which aviation and highways have gotten a very they've gotten a dedicated funding every single year. It cannot be lower than this amount in Congress, right? So they always have to appropriate a certain amount of funding. Amtrak, however, the difference between that and Amtrak is Amtrak has to fight for funds almost every single year. There is not a set amount of cost for Amtrak every single year. Amtrak always has to say, well, we have to go ahead and get this amount of funding, and then there's always fighting it back and forth between Democrats who are always either too, the Democrats are friendly to Amtrak, but they're always distracted by other things, right? And the Republicans always say, well, Amtrak is supposed to be a for-profit company, so it's supposed to make its own money, right? Even though we don't give it anything and we basically set it up to fail. That's how it works. And again, Republicans and Democrats. The one thing I do gotta say, because some people have brought this up when I talked about the need for third parties in America. Some people have asked me, well, Demetrius, what about the caucuses that inside the Republican and Democratic Party? Aren't those basically parties? No. What they are factions within there, and there's always going to be certain factions within the parties. The problem with the Republican-Democrat Party is that there's the reason why they exist is because the amount of funding each party gets, right? There's no way, except for maybe there was that one libertarian who when he switched from a Republican to a libertarian in Congress, he only served like a couple months and then left Congress, right? I mean, that was basically it. But there's not going to be a gigantic switch between, Democrats showing their true colors or some Republicans showing their true colors. And that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of things aren't going to get done in this country in the sense that we need drastic change. And here we go. So the Federal Railroad Administration has identified $300 billion worth of investment needed to develop both high-speed and higher-speed intercity passenger rail corridors. So this is one of my big issues with this bill. So the government knows how much money it needs. It's not saying exactly which projects they need to, because basically the FRA comes up with this number, and they estimate it, and they say, well, we need this and this project, and it may cost, X amount of money, right? They're not giving a timeline of what's first priority, what's second priority, how much it's going to cost, and a timeline to fix all these projects, right? Because in a bill of nearly 2,000 pages, you would expect that, and that's the massive problem with this bill. There are no priorities on what the actual goal is or a specific point in saying this is where we need the infrastructure to go. All this bill is saying is that we need to throw money at infrastructure, and here's a couple projects that could happen, and it doesn't list that many projects. In fact, it shouldn't be listing projects. What it should be listing is what a project has to entail, what criteria needs to be met and accomplished in order for said project to receive X amount of funding from the bill or from what Congress has appropriated for it. There's some of that there, but it's not. There's no specific language. Okay, it's only saying, oh, it needs to be a rail project. Well, what type of rail project? Can it be what's high-speed rail? What do you define as high-speed rail? How many high-speed rail systems do you want in this country? How many transit systems do you want in this country? BRT, what is the definition of BRT if we're going to go down? Because all the transit stuff was just basically BRT. And I'm kind of sick about hearing BRT because BRT is just basically a temporary solution. And that's, can it work sometimes? Yeah. Compared to light rail, it doesn't hold a candle to light rail in most of the cases. No, it doesn't. No matter what politicians are going to lie and say about it. No. So this whole entire this whole entire bill is going into what's that? So here we go. The term high-speed rail has given meaning such term as Section 26105. So that's going into the United States Code, meaning this is high-speed rail over 110 miles an hour. But again, when we talk about the definitions here in this country, again, they're still very generalized. Okay. It's, for example, like when we talk about California, right? There was a section of the California High-Speed Rail Project where it's only going to be single-tracked, which does not meet the definition of actual true high-speed rail. And there will be, yes, the high-speed rail, the 200-mile-an-hour train for the California High-Speed Rail will have some crossings. It will have some crossings, okay? That does not meet that's the problem with these definitions. There's no actual set definition, all right? I know I'm kind of boring you guys with this. I'm trying to make it as fun as possible, right? That's why I've got to, get some drinks, get a little conductor cap as we write along this long and treacherous article, and we cut this down with some Neon Viking ale here. Cloudberry and apricot sour ale, which is actually pretty nice. So it is a pretty nice ale. So to be eligible for a grant for high-speed rail project, an eligible applicant shall demonstrate compliance with section 26106C21, blah, blah, blah. If you guys really want me to look at these codes one by one, we can. JDD will go to fund transit CRT BRT. Yeah, I can't say the other word, but I completely understand. Yeah, it's going to be crossing the line there if you tell it's going to cross into 51%, if you know what I mean. Yes. So, yeah, and this is the whole entire article, right? I mean, I keep saying article. It's because I know we're so used to articles, but this just keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so basically this week, let's go into this because again, if you guys want anything specific for me to look at, I will go ahead and look in here and find this out. But again, I've looked into all this, and there are certain things in here which is it goes into a whole section of Amtrak, and it just basically goes out and lists what Amtrak's duties are, as if Amtrak didn't know what their duties are. Basically going that Amtrak is supposed to serve people meals on overnight trains, which is fine. Amtrak is now considering if you vape, that is now considered smoking, and you now cannot vape on the train, which is, at least finally, they get rid of that cancer. I'm sorry, I'm not a smoking fan. And vaping just looks, I'm just being personal with that. I'm not trying to offend anyone. Or maybe I am. I don't know. Am I trying to offend anyone who vapes? It's okay. The conductor's hat reminds me to go and finish watching Thomas the Tank Engine Season 2. Yeah. Anything past, I love the George Carlin and Ringo Starr Thomas the Tank Engines. Those were the best ones. When they started making it 3D and later on when they changed the narrator, I'm like, no, that's not Thomas. Thomas is supposed to be stop motion. The stop motion Chads rise up. So let's look into this. Okay. So again, why is U.S. infrastructure so expensive? We've talked about this in a video about 3 years ago. Wow, time has been clicking. So about 3 years ago, we did look at several examples, and we looked into some of these projects. And really, the biggest reason in the United States why infrastructure is expensive is because administrative costs exceed construction costs or make up a vast proportion of the cost of projects. So what does that mean? It means the actual project itself, the construction costs, the materials, the steel, the concrete, the rebar, all the signaling, all the technology, all the planning, all the construction workers. That's also very important, the construction workers. And by construction workers, mostly unionized American workers, which don't get paid that much anyway because the union pilfers a lot of their money. Let's be honest, American unions are not the same unions as they used to be before that actually protected workers. Again, there's a whole revolving door about that as well. So all those actual costs, the cost of materials, the cost to actually make the train sets and put them on there, the cost for stations, and all that don't make up the actual bulk of the cost. It's not saying that the California High-Speed Rail project is going to cost $100 billion because that's how much construction costs are. Well, construction costs for materials are getting up there. If you guys have been trying to build anything this summer or trying to, construction costs, everything has been going up because of inflation. Not just due to the pandemic, but due to several other factors. I mean, you haven't been able to get a PlayStation 5 since before the pandemic because we've had a shortage of chips for a long time ago. I'm not going to get into that again, but I'm just being real with you guys because nobody else says about this. Every other channel or club really goes into a lot of the other fun stuff about rail. I'm trying to bring out the reality and say, well, things look a little bit worse than they are. But so this is funny. The Street Belongs USA, which is a pretty good website. Some people, I would consider it more left-leaning. Somebody on here considered it right-leaning, which I don't know how you can consider Street Blogs right-leaning, but hey, everybody's got their own has got their own political circle, right? So the infrastructure deal is the worst ratio for transit funding since Nixon. And again, funny enough, when we talk about Bill and we talk about Schoolhouse Rock, you want to talk about somebody who's been in politics longer than I'm just a bill made by corporate shills. You want to talk about someone who's been in Washington longer and been a senator longer than that? This guy right here, Mr. Joseph Robinette Biden, has been a senator longer than Schoolhouse Rock has been around, and he's been in politics since Lyndon B. Johnson. All right, I don't know how many of you folks are alive who remember Lyndon B. Johnson. I certainly don't. So that, yeah, this man is our president, a guy who is older than Schoolhouse, who's been in politics longer than Schoolhouse Rock, and has been in politics since LBJ, and has been a senator since Nixon. So he would know, right? So let's look into this. So we looked at the American Jobs Plan in June, and we were pretty set with the June version, right? The problem is transit went down from $49 billion in funding to about $39 billion. And again, the appropriations for that are not exactly what the project's going to get. So let's be honest with this. The bipartisan infrastructure deal right now that has been approved to be debated, it has now had the privilege to now be even considered now for a debate. This is how the U.S. government works, okay? So we vote to debate on it, and then we debate and then vote on it on that. It's a little confusing, but that's what it is. So this bipartisan infrastructure deal that Joe Biden, along with the Democrats and Republicans and certain Republicans in the Senate, have made, has amounted first to this, and then it went down to this. Okay, so. And the thing is that once it goes into debate, you're going to see Congress, both sides of Congress, including the Senate and the House, they're going to change things back and forth. The August recess is coming up, and this bill has just come in. Not only that, there's several other things that are a lot of pressing matters for this, including not just COVID relief funds or anything like that. For example, the evictions that are coming up now. The eviction moratorium is ending. And that's going to put at least 3 million renters and 4 million homeowners. So about what? If you're talking about the homeowners and renters themselves, you have 7 million people, but 3 maybe per household on average, or 4. So we're talking about we're talking about 30 to 50 million Americans now are about to lose their homes or their rental properties quickly. Well, they're not their properties; they're renting it, but that's how things work here. And that's going to create a massive issue. That amount of homelessness, just like that. So all of this now is crunch time for Congress, including the massive infrastructure bill. So you can see what sort of a mess we are, and this is why I'm not too optimistic about where things are. So when I say things are going to get worse before they get better. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Show China we will regain the primary position, the reality of the 1930s before dismantling the Rail Empire. Yeah, James, that's, again, it's not just about us and our people here as well. The rest of the world is also watching, and, Pax Americana, well, I personally think it's done and over with since Trump, but, we're not fixing our own infrastructure. We're not caring for our own people. Granted, China is not the friendliest to its own people, but they at least put something there in China first that's Chinese, whether it's the Chinese Communist Party. At least they put that first. The United States puts its own big business and the people last. It puts its own big business first, or the parties first, right? And again, we can argue and debate on that, but that's really an issue here in the United States, why we're getting into this. So, the end of the 80-20 split. Okay, so if you guys are not familiar with the 80-20 split, this was in about the 80s, during the Reagan administration, that Washington agreed that it would be 80% of transit of infrastructure funding would go to roads and aviation and all that, and 20% would go to transit, right? But that ratio has looked a lot more like 90-10 or 95-5 in reality. And we've looked at that. 5% you really went to rail and transit in most of the other bills. this article is saying 87-13. No, we've seen times when it's gone 95-5. So we've hoped to see it go down, but this is now looking a little bit more like 80-20. So for those of us who wanted to see a lot more reasonable split, right? Because when you really look at it, transit and rail should be together, right? So 66-49, you add that together, and that's about the same as roads and bridges, right? Give or take. The problem is that most of this in transit is going to go to buses or upkeeping the bus systems that are already in place in many metropolitan areas within the United States. So, and we know how those projects go. It doesn't do much. I mean, I've lived in Miami, born and raised in Miami, and the Miami bus transit system, as most other systems in the United States, are plagued by these same problems. You have a quarter of bus drivers every single day just not reporting to work, or the bus is late 80% of the time. I'm not kidding. These are real numbers out of Florida, out of Miami-Dade transit system. And we want to talk about real numbers. So the total number of this bill is $1 trillion, right? The American Society of Civil Engineers said that we would need at least $5 trillion in order just to fix up whatever's falling apart in this country. $5 trillion just to fix everything up. Not to modernize it, just to fix things up. We need a hell of a lot more than that. $5 trillion is a massive amount of money. And look, Congress has already spent several trillion in just the last year and a half alone because of the pandemic, for pandemic relief. And things have been getting worse in terms of not just unemployment, but there's still a worker shortage. Real wages have not risen for Americans. If anything, we've turned into stagnation, and not a great way to stagnate either. It's not like Japan has stagnated since the 1990s, where they've had stagflation, and things are at least not that expensive in Japan. The problem is in the United States, things are getting more and more expensive. So there needs to be a much more massive and much more serious infrastructure plan in order to get Americans back to work, because we're really misusing labor over here, and the labor shortage. There's a reason why there's a labor shortage. There's not enough blue-collar jobs, and very simply, if you want to put it that way, the lack of blue-collar jobs in America, and that's another thing. If you're in college, and of course I fell for this too, and in retrospect, I honestly probably should have gone into a trade or something like that, because I've known friends or people who have just basically skipped college or did not go to college, just went to a trade, and they're making more money than all of us who got degrees, and I know several friends who have master's and doctorates degrees. They're not earning nearly as much as some of my friends or some people who have just gone into trades. So if you're thinking of going to college, rethink that, unless you're going to become a doctor or a lawyer, which do require degrees, although we probably need less lawyers in the country, depending on what you think. But we really need more blue-collar jobs and workers. Now, the demand for that can be met and exceeded if we have actual transportation and infrastructure plans. So a boost for transit, but not big enough. Again, tilting investments towards drivers doesn't mean that transit agencies will get nothing. And the White House was quick to point out that the $39 billion for public transit included in the bill was the largest federal investment in public transit history. That also goes for Amtrak. I think the $60-something billion that Amtrak is getting is the largest ever gotten. However, just to fix the Northeast Corridor, Amtrak needs a lot more money than that. I think they need at least $500 billion for the Northeast Corridor. $60 billion maybe covers just a bit of the Gateway program. But we'll go into that. I think this article makes it clear. So transit electrification, meanwhile, lost out even bigger. The original American Jobs Plan committed $25 billion to city bus electrification and another $20 billion for school bus electrification, a dollar amount that most voters support. But that shrank to just $2.5 billion for all bus electrification, another $2.5 billion for buying hybrid buses. So $2.5 billion doesn't even buy that many buses, right? Advocates say the nearly 90% cut is unconscionable, especially when it comes to saving school kids' lungs from poison diesel exhaust. If you want to put it that way. The death of the fix-it-first road policy, which is, and this is the problem. And I agree with this. We should fix what we have that's broken, right? The idea that states should be required to fix all those crumbling roads and bridges they kept complaining about before they lay down even more asphalt was popular throughout the presidential campaign, not to mention the first draft of Biden's own infrastructure stimulus plan itself. So advocates were disappointed, if not exactly surprised, to learn that the negotiations had nixed the common sense idea of opting to essentially insert the status quo highway bill into the bipartisan deal. So what does that mean? Basically, this deal, instead of actually fixing roads, it's looking to build more roads. This is an issue. Kudos to Ian for getting wise to perpetual con on federal infrastructure funding, cry about crumbling roads and bridges, raise new money for transportation, make zero commit requirements to improve crumbling things, rinse and repeat. Yep, exactly. This is from Transit for America, a tweet they did on July 29th. That's basically correct. Crumbs for road safety, $11 billion for road safety. Let's be honest. Road safety has much more to do with the quality of roads and the quality of the drivers, which the quality of the roads you can fix. The drivers, not so much. in this country, I mean, you can make roads that will at least encourage better behaviors, better driving etiquette from people, but 11 billion road safety. Let's face it. A campaign to drive slower, and speed limits are just basically they're gonna look at speed limits and everything. Half the bill is basically, and this will be up to the Secretary of Transportation to report, or the Secretary of Transportation to write up. So basically, what they're doing in the whole entire bill is like, okay. So in one sentence, this is the bill. The United States government is giving out billions of dollars in money, and it's up to the Secretary of Transportation to figure out where that money is going and how it's going to happen. That's basically what the bill is. So it's up to you, Pete Buttigieg, to figure out where this money is going. At least I think Pete will do a better job than most other people who would be Transportation Secretary. And let's be honest, he is sort of he's done rail before. He's been a fan of Amtrak for a bit. He understands rail transit at least more than politicians, which isn't saying much. I mean, honestly, if there's one senator, in my opinion, who actually understands at least the basics and more about the need for passenger rail infrastructure and high-speed rail, it's Seth Moulton. He absolutely understands the need for it and where it works and why it works. Okay? You're not going to find many, if any, senators or representatives that actually understand it. Very few. And that's because, again, they're dealing with a whole bunch of other protocols, and they're very much tied to some specific subjects. But, again, rail is the backbone of this country. And you guys have seen the video I came out with this week, the little dark age of America's infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. It kind of is blackpilling, in a sense, because this country used to be different. You can even say this was a completely different country, or was before. I mean, you had things like the Milwaukee F7 class streamliner, a steam train that was capable of going over 140 miles an hour. We'll never know if it did or not, but it was certainly the most powerful locomotive. One of the most powerful steam locomotives of all time. And you had steam locomotives that would regularly go 110 miles an hour. No big deal. They would reach that speed and more. And they were faster than Amtrak services. And again, Amtrak has better equipment now. Their trains don't reach 110 miles an hour in most of these places, but they can reach it now with the Siemens ACL 42s. The Chargers, but it's just not the same. There's some other congressmen. Congressman Cartwright. I do understand about Pete Buttigieg's name. I could not really pronounce it either, and I can see that. I can't say half of them on here because I don't want to get in the YouTube gulag. An underwhelming rail title. So let's go into this. At first glance, Amtrak Joe came in the bid Granting freight and passenger rail a $66 billion windfall that includes the largest investment in Amtrak since the creation of the legacy agency. But train boosters themselves say that impressive top line is deceptive because it includes $34.2 billion in baseline funding included in the Senate's garbage reauthorization bill. It's basically they're reauthorizing Amtrak, and that's why they're including all that of Amtrak. That means there's really only $32 billion in new dollars for the mode in the package, less than half of the $74 billion Biden proposed in the first draft of the American Jobs Plan. A lot of important work will get done with these funds if they make it to the final passage. Again, big emphasis on if it makes it to the final package. But this does not pay for the kind of expansion the U.S. needs, one that allows tens of millions of additional Americans to choose passenger rail as a clean, energy-efficient mode of transportation, said Jim Matthews, president of the Rail Passenger Association, which I agree with. And Jim Matthews, I've talked to him a couple times before a while in the past, and he understands it too. The problem is that people don't really listen to transit that much. You know, we get a transit week and then that's it. The group points out that the bid would allocate the vast majority of funding towards addressing, and that's the bipartisan infrastructure deal, BID, would allocate the vast majority of funds toward addressing the rail network's maintenance backlogs and modernizing existing routes, essentially solidifying a national fix-it-first approach to the mode at a moment when the realities of climate change all but demand that America expand its use of rail. And then there's other guys like Peter DeFazio is another guy from Oregon, and he's saying that there needs to be a heck of a lot more in this. So he's saying here, I could give a damn about the White House, said DeFazio in a recent briefing to reporters on the deal. We're an independent branch of the government. They cut this deal. I didn't sign off on it. So yeah, and there's more over here about Amtrak. Slate calls it a genius plan for Amtrak. What the beleaguered operator should do with $66 billion from Congress. But again, it says here, $24 billion specifically for the Northeast Corridor, $20 billion for intercity service, safety grants. These are grants, so it's not loans or anything like that. It's just money that Amtrak is going to get. So money for example, the BNP tunnel in Maryland. Things like the Susquehanna Bridge and a whole, like we see in the thumbnail, the Susquehanna Bridge is almost 120 years old, or 110, something like that. I think it was built. Somebody in the comments remind me when that was built. I believe it was built like in the 1910s, definitely. It's an old bridge, and it's still standing there. I mean, it's just a testament to old American engineering. It's insane. Man. Yeah. Parrish 29. I'm looking forward to Amtrak service improved and high-speed rail, but not looking forward on becoming 52 years old when we get to 2035. Yeah. Well, we're all going to be older by then. So, I mean, at the rate things are going, and it's not to say that America can't do it, okay? I was, barely going into high school when China started its high-speed rail program, and now here I am, through high school and college, and China basically connected their whole entire country. It took them around 15 years to do all that. While the United States is still lumbering around, California can barely get the Central Valley fixed up, all right? So there's a massive problem in the United States, and it's understandable. I mean, you guys know me. I have been on this. It just seems to get darker and darker and darker. And then with this bill, if this bill isn't funded, again, honestly, this is why we need to stop looking at the federal government. We need to start getting this done through regions and states. Every time the federal government, for the last 50 years, we have had, even in the Lyndon B. Johnson administration, okay, he made the High-Speed Rail Act back then in 1965. Nothing has happened in the last 50, 60 years. So keep the old Albert Einstein quote, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is the definition of insanity. This is really insanity, is this is every single time something like this comes about, it doesn't really happen. We have to look at different areas. So we have to look towards the states. We have to look towards things like Brightline. Okay? Brightline is the only bright thing in this whole entire equation. So again, we're going to get past this. We're going to take a break. At 8:50, we're going to go ahead and allow people in the audience. If anybody's in the audience on Discord, again, anybody who is on the comments on YouTube, the description is below. But come on to the audience if you want to go ahead and opine. And I understand for those of you who are usually used to our Saturday, if you're watching this stream at a later date, I've been wondering why we didn't have it Saturday. Again, apologies. It was more for me to get into this bill and to actually see what's in it and what it actually entails. I thought I would have enough time to actually look at it during the week, and I didn't. And I was going to look at it Saturday. I'm like, oh no, I need more time to look at this. So I took last night and this afternoon to look more into it. So that's why. And again, my apologies. So look at this. So $24 billion for just the Northeast Corridor, right? That's $24 billion for just allocation Northeast Corridor. The Gateway project is expected to cost about $22 billion. Now again, the state of New York, the state of New Jersey are supposed to be the two states that are going to be funding a great amount of that because the Gateway project goes in between both states. The issue is that $24 billion, again, doesn't cover the Gateway project in itself. The Northeast Corridor requires a hell of a lot more money than that just to get around. And again, is it Amtrak's fault? Not really necessarily. There's partly blame, but not as much as the federal government, or not as much as just the transit priorities in this country have been. That's really the issue. Okay. The issue is that the Northeast Corridor, why is it so expensive to fix it, is because it's taken so long for Amtrak and the federal government to fix it. And again, Amtrak is reliant on the federal government to give it funds and to get permission to fix it. However, the federal government is really the big basis into that. If any airline said that the airlines needed $150 billion the airlines needed $50 billion so they can't lay off workers and to make sure that they're too big to fail during the pandemic. Just like that, Congress gives them money. And the airlines broke their deal. GM and all the big three are, losing money back in 2008. What did Obama do? Give them money. That's how quick it is for all these other businesses to do. So that's the free market in a sense, guys. That's the thing. Capitalism is good. The problem is that when you have free market capitalism, to a sense that there's no balance to it, it causes that issue. Again, there's a difference between capitalism and free market capitalism. You can go ahead and look that up. I'm going to stick onto rail and get back onto this. All right. So there's one more thing about this. There's Peter DeFazio, who's House Transportation Committee chair. He's getting really ticked off because he's written a lot of bills for rail which haven't gotten anywhere. But again, a lot of this is due to once this goes into debate, a lot of things are going to be changed, and then all those changes have to be approved. So yeah, let's look in the comments before we start in the audience. So you put more effort than most politicians. Yeah, I guess you can say that. Some politicians put more effort, yeah. Things were cheaper in the 1950s. Unfortunately, jobs also paid their employees less. Not true at all. In fact, when you look at inflation, if you were a janitor back in the 1950s and you were making, at the time, it was like, $2 or $4 an hour or something like that. In today's money, that would be around $24 or $22 in reality. So a janitor back then would be making more than somebody who's an entry-level analyst at a Fortune 500 company. And I know because I've worked for Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies, okay? They don't pay as much as most people think they're going to. I mean, that's a lot of problems. When people get out of college and they think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to make a job and, I'll be able to pay off my debt in 4 years. No, that's not happening. Yeah, a lot of problems. But yeah, people had more jobs back then, and they did pay employees more. So that's not true. They did pay employees more in the 1950s. And again, it was a different world back in the 1950s, right? Europe was basically blasted to hell after World War II. Everybody had to rebuild. The only country that was really untouched after World War II was the United States. We came in with the Marshall Plan. And not only, we prosper from that, but everybody else was basically in the tutelage of the United States in order to be able to build themselves back up again. Or either that or the USSR. But again, the Soviet Russia was also blasted to bits in World War II, at least the western part of it. Can we just ban cars in most big and medium cities in the United States? In some areas you can ban cars, like Madrid's done and some European countries have done. You can ban cars in some parts of the city, but you can't ban cars entirely. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the audience. So David Mitchell is in the audience. We'll invite him to speak. Hello, David. You are on.
Hey.
Hey, man. Welcome aboard again.
Very good. Oh, hey, can I be real quick? My wife gave you a nickname, Demo.
Demo.
No, Demo.
Oh, okay. So like a short of Demetrius, I'm guessing.
Yep. My wife's nickname for you.
All right. Well, tell her thank you.
I will. But I sent you a link in about Norfolk Tournament, a new plan that is actually old that actually might work. I sent you the link to it.
Work in terms of what? And what are they trying to make in terms of the Atlanta to Charlotte plan, or?
Norfolk turned into a plan called TXT.
Okay.
Or the top door.
All right. So what are they planning with? I'm opening up the article now, but if you could tell everybody in the audience what a summary of the plan.
Do you know how back in the 50s and 60s they still used to deliver trucks used to deliver stuff to the train warehouses?
Right.
Like small packages and stuff, and they shipped them by train to places?
Yeah. And that was a lot more common back then.
Norfolk started a branded to bring it back.
Okay, so in terms of for places like Amazon and for much more interconnected mail and small packages, then, right? So instead of the USPS sending it on planes all over the place, if it's, let's say, it needs to get from, let's say on this map from Atlanta to Chicago, instead of flying a plane from Atlanta and it probably goes over to Memphis where FedEx is, their big facility is, and then from there to go to Chicago, instead it can go on a train and go around here while also shipping off packages around in that area, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know how they used to have train warehouses?
Right.
Back in the day where trucks used to come in and load up box cars?
Right.
Norfolk started actually planning to bring that back, and I actually do say it is feasible in this day and age.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. You can make that happen. Yeah.
We destroyed it, and we are now bringing it back, and it was very reliable. You know.
Yeah.
If we start doing that again, we can actually bring in more jobs. We can actually help make the economy a lot better. Literally.
Yeah.
And Amazon, I would say for Amazon, FedEx, the U.S. Post Office, I would tell all of them to get back onto this, you know?
Yeah, and for those of you in the comments, I'm sure you're familiar with this. For those of you who are not, here's a little bit of history. The USPS used to send mail on a lot of passenger trains, where they used to have their own just post office car. And I've been in some of these. There's only very few in the United States that are actually still in good condition. I've been in several of them. Some of them are just falling apart, or some of them were salvaged enough that they could be repaired to
museum pieces.
Yeah, and I've seen several of those. They're pretty cool. And what they used to do, there was an arm that used to switch out. So when trains were going by a station which they were not stopping, there would be a whole bag of mail that would be waiting on the side. And as the train was going along a little bit slower, it would have a hook and just grab it and just keep going along and then bring that inside into the train. So kind of ingenious back then. It was really a whole system that worked, and this was back then. No computers, no artificial intelligence, no cell phones, or none of that. This was just paper, pen, and American mind and grit. That's what made it happen.
I do see it coming back. I do see Norfolk Southern bringing it back, and I do see potential with it.
Yeah.
I do see potential, literally, bringing in packages. The trains will have to chop now. Something complete different now. They will have to chop and switch the freight out.
Yeah. Oh, that most definitely. Yeah.
I can see it working. A truck. If you order something online from a factory, it gets loaded up on a truck, put on a boxcar, brought to your town, unloaded, and then brought to your house. I can see that working,
Yeah. So let me see. I'm looking at the article here. So today, as part of our experiment, we have 3 nodes: Chicago, Atlanta, and Miami, and also 3 very big cities. Chicago, Atlanta, and Miami are growing pretty rapidly. Atlanta has more room to grow. Miami, again, being somebody from Miami needs a lot of work in order to facilitate all these people. Again, you can only build so much between the Everglades and the Atlantic Ocean until you run out of space. Chicago, yeah,
South Carolina, man.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still 3 major cities of multimodal of business and transit and everything. So Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, and we're expanding this network as we speak, but I think you'll see more nodes going forward. So it's an experiment, it's small, but in railroad terms, it's about as exotic as it gets for a new product. So this is pretty interesting.
Now, I do see them bringing back box cars for this. I can see them using box cars and intermodal cars. I can see them using both.
Yeah, this would be pretty interesting. So leverages intermodal service, boxcar capacity, door-to-door reach beyond the rail, unique supply chain solution. Yeah, and this also, you have a lot of long-distance trucking, not as much as before. I do know because my brother-in-law's my brother-in-law to be is a trucker. And there's a lot in this bill concerning trucking, what a lot of them call the Obama break. Basically, between they can't drive for more than a certain set number of hours before they have to shut down, which it takes away pay from them, but it's supposed to increase safety. But if it has or not, that's still up for debate, I guess. But
actually have because back before the Obama put that law in, we used to see truck drivers swerving all over the road. A lot more before Obama put that law in. And when we got up to them, it looked like they were dozing off. After the law, we did not see that much,
Right, but I'm talking about total, vehicle accidents. I mean, from what you see, as an anecdote, is different from what you actually get from statistics and actual reported data from the amount of accidents in the United States. Now, granted, last year, there's definitely going to be a decrease in automobile accidents because not as many people were on the road because they were basically locked in their houses for the whole year, half the year. Some still are now because of the new strain, and we'll be going throughout the whole Greek alphabet of strains until the end of time if it wants to. But
well, I am fully vaccinated myself. I'm fully vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with what I've been doing right now. Again, if you want to vaccinate yourself, do the research. If you don't want to vaccinate, do the research. It goes both ways. But I'm not gonna talk about that much on here. We're just gonna stick to rail.
I can see it being potential. I hate to say it, if they had intermodal back in the 50s and 60s. It would still probably exist, the train warehouse, it would probably still existed,
Yeah.
They would have been doing a lot better if intermodal had came in earlier, but it came in the 80s,
Yeah. Definitely. This is some good news out from the freight railroad aspect of everything going on, and it's at least something, and it's showing how they're adapting to how the markets are changing. because there's a lot of smaller packages and a lot of other places going around that maybe you don't have to put everything in a truck or you have to put everything in an airplane, especially if it's going along this corridor. I mean, the eastern seaboard and eastern corridor is where most of the country lives. I mean, like 70% of the country lives east of the Mississippi. So if you have all these nodes over here and you're just putting packages back and forth, I mean, along with the large packages and the large amount of product that go through freight railroads, now you have smaller packages and box cars for anything from online ordering or shipping or anything like that. That changes the market. So yeah,
and I've seen it with South Carolina being a port city. You could see a lot more trains coming through South Carolina really soon if they do their plan here, because we got a big shipping port.
Oh yeah,
we have the second deepest shipping port on the East Coast here in Charleston.
Yeah, in Charleston, yeah.
And if this happens, Norfolk Southern are going to, on the line from Charleston to Columbia, called the SC line, I could see them working on adding, trains through there,
Yeah, it's the same thing with Miami. Miami has, I think, the largest amount of shipping freight into the port of Miami, which is why you have, the FEC and Norfolk and CSX. All coming in and out of there. I mean, it's a massive port in the port of Miami. So, I mean, yeah, that's the reason why they picked Miami. Miami being one of the largest ports, Atlanta being a major area for a lot of international anything coming in by plane, and Chicago being a major hub, probably the largest freight hub in the north.
I do got some sad news. We did want 2 trains on the A line between Charleston, on the Charleston area. The 2 trains are Q400 and Q401.
Yeah.
CSX have now discontinued them from Florence, South Carolina down to Florida, meaning they'll begin in Florence now.
Right. Yeah.
So we lost 2 trains, so that's a total crap.
Again, well, thank you for this. I appreciate the news. Honestly, I think you should be like a freight rail correspondent for the American Rail Club or something later on. When we start expanding, we'll probably do that. Where everybody will have some titles or something. And once we start getting our medium back in shape, so we can have that, so people can put articles and share videos and stuff like that. So I want to kind of turn this thing into a whole network where it's not just me, but it's everybody else also sharing things.
I know. But before I go, CSX did talk about adding a new train on my area of the line.
Okay, that's good.
We did want 2 trains, but we're probably going to end up with 4 new trains. And one of them is Tropicana Juice train. They're bringing that back.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I'll be talking about bringing it back. I remember watching those things go by my house every day.
Yeah, I used to see those in Florida sometimes, the Tropicana trains. But anyway.
So, I'll be talking about bringing it back.
Yeah. All right, well,
good thing.
At least some things are looking up. But thank you so much for coming on board, David.
You are
always appreciate you having on.
You too, man.
All right, take care, man.
I will later.
All right, so thank you there for David for bringing that up. So again, if you guys want to come up on board, we're here on Discord. Doesn't seem to be anybody else in the audience who wants to come up on board. So from that, we're going to go ahead and keep on going. So we're going to try to keep this stream shorter. The build, not so much. But we'll keep on going over there. All right. I don't know if you guys want to look into this article. I think we've talked enough about the bill. Anything in there. So let's go and talk about some other things. Because it is tiring. What causes the most traffic, cars, trucks, or other modes? Definitely cars. And that's been proven. The reason being is that cars, you have, largely cars that seat 5 or more, carrying only 1 person. Multiply that by 20 people, you have 20 cars. Instead of having 20 people per 1 bus. Again, it's not perfect like that, and you can't just force 20 people to say go in bus or go to Gulag. That doesn't work. You can't just start doing that. And again, yeah, look, there's a difference between, again, definitely I'm not a communist or a socialist at all. All right, those systems are among the worst systems ever in humankind. If you want to say otherwise, that's fine. But I've seen it. My family's lived through it. No, and I've seen what it does to other countries. And the thing is that over here in the United States, yeah, there's other ways that we can do things, but I'm not going to get into that as much. Let's see what else in the comments over here. I've noticed a lot more license plates from California, New York, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Yep, you're going to be getting a lot of those as everybody's escaping from California, New York. Hey, you know what? All those everything that they voted for, they're going to be voting for it there in Michigan too. But that's where we're going. All right. Let's make street legal go-karts. Hey, that'll be just keep some banana peels on you. I would come out with a banana peel here, but that's a nasty looking banana peel I threw away in the trash just for a Mario Kart joke. All right. You know what? Let's get some good news. I'm tired of looking at silly crap like BRT. I'm going to get that clip by like the BRT purists. He said BRT is silly crap. How dare he? Boca Raton looks to move forward with the Brightline train station. City receives $1.5 million of the federal grant for the project. See, if there are projects that go ahead and say that meet the criteria, then that would make sense. So only $1.5 million, and the city is receiving it. So the city is receiving it, not Brightline technically. So Brightline is still not receiving any federal grants or funding. Okay, so still Brightline is a private project funding itself. Okay, again, having partnerships with the cities. That's completely fine. Look, private companies do this all the time, right? Amazon Web Services is the biggest AI platform and the biggest service provider for the U.S. government. Okay, along with Microsoft and others. So it's not at all new that private companies work with governments. Okay, this is what happens. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please, if you want to ask them right now, you're welcome to come on board in the audience and just go ahead and ask. We'll probably have one more break at around 9:45 and then call it a night for there. So we could end at around 10 o'clock. And I know you guys it's a Sunday, a blessed Sunday. You guys want to get to work tomorrow or school or university, whichever you have to go. So we're trying to keep things on schedule. So let's keep going on to here. Let's watch this here. That's funny. Who has a last name called Cake? Shannon Cake. That's funny.
Still not open to the public, but the company is still moving forward with new plans to build a new station in Boca Raton. Boca City Council will be looking at updates to that plan, in fact, tonight during their 6 o'clock meeting. South County reporter Miranda Christian breaks down the latest on the station.
Brightline was approved to build a train station in Boca Raton in 2019. The station is set to build east of the city's public library with a new parking garage next to it. Work to prepare for the train station has started, with a temporary parking lot being built and the community garden being relocated.
And we're looking forward to having the station open up in 2022.
Mayor Scott Singer says the timeline for the new
That's good,
station
22.
is on schedule.
Next year.
The city and Brightline were awarded a federal grant, with the city getting over $1 million to help pay for the $10 million parking garage the city is paying for.
$1.5 million of Boca taxpayer dollars saved.
Any city that has the Brightline station within it is going to benefit immensely.
And that's true, right? Now, the guy saying it, but look, it's true, right? Anywhere that Brightline touches, it turns to, well, bright gold, I guess you could say. You know, it's not certainly not, one-on-one with the Midas touch, but it's definitely a much better deal to have Brightline in your neighborhood than not. Certainly a much better deal than spending millions of dollars on a lawsuit like the Treasure Coast did.
Marshall Sklar says he's excited to hear the station is still being built in Boca Raton. The station will run down to Miami and eventually through Orlando when that section is complete.
Every now and then, my wife and I, we enjoy going to Miami, whether it's for a sporting event, a restaurant, a concert. And the one thing we really hate is the traffic. Traffic and then parking.
City Council will look at updated information from Brightline reflecting the federal grant and designs for the parking.
Did she say Bright Lane? Tell me she said Bright Lane, guys. She said Bright Lane, right? Oh, dear.
City Council will look at updated information from Bright Lane.
Oh, she said Bright Lane. Oh, dear. Oh, well, hey, look, it's one letter changed, right?
Reflecting the federal grant and designs for the parking garage on Tuesday evening. Another discussion will be held in August. In Boca Raton, I'm Miranda Christian, WPTV News Channel.
Hey, guys. This is Bright Lane. And this is a Genesis P42. Media! What can I say? What can I say? It's just the media, right? But look, this is good, and the lease deal is approved, so Brightline already has the land which they're going to have the station on, so it's theirs, or at least leased, and they're leasing all the land, except for the one that they do own is the station area in Miami. That is completely owned by the FEC. That has been theirs for nearly 100 years, no, more than 100 years actually. That's their own property. It used to be just parking lots, and now it's a beautiful station that is growing, that's going to have apartments, office buildings, with your three-level station with your trains on the top. I mean, it's a gorgeous station. And when it does open up again, hopefully, God willing, I can go ahead and see it again as it opens up. That will be a beautiful sight to see. So we're looking at the station opening up in 2022, so that's going to be good. And hopefully, yes, for you guys, before you say, yes, Brightline is going to open up again, Q4, hopefully again. If we're not going against COVID-22 Epsilon strain, hopefully by that point. COVID-22, the sequel, in theaters this summer. Yeah, she did say Bright Lane moment. That's funny. It works with your username too. A ha 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 Bright Lane moment. Oh man. Yeah, she did. Okay. That's what it is. PRT might work. I hope it is better than driving everywhere. Well, your car is personal transportation, right? So I mean that's the thing with PRT. And I've talked to a lot of people who are trying to promote PRT. Several dudes in particular that didn't really have a good rap with the PRT community, and I can see why. I'm not going to name any names. That will be a story for a whole different time. But the thing is with PRT, again, your car is personal rapid transit. Okay, yeah, rapid, but hey. You can call a bus rapid, right? I guess you can do that too, jumbo shrimp. Oh, man. But look, here's the thing. Personal rapid transit, if you're saying like little pods that you can, press a button, a pod comes over to you, you walk in and you go somewhere else, that usually can only work in very select situations, like let's say an airport or a hotel or a large resort area or some other things, right? Because having an expanding system out beyond that introduces even more problems, and you start entering the same problem like you have a car, right? You can only do that in very planned out areas or very planned out cities. I know Walt Disney originally had that in mind for Epcot, the experimental prototype city of tomorrow. That was originally a plan, but of course they wanted to go ahead and build a theme park and sell more funnel cake. Hey, that's after Walt Disney died, who took over the company? Took it and just wanted to make money. GN, thank you very much for the super chat. Ironic thing that if public transit was widespread, people in cars that need to drive would get to where they go faster, not just bikes. Yeah, and it's true. I think you commented on that in the last video. It is true. That's the thing. So if more people have the choice that they can go ahead and take either a bus, a train, or any other, whatever it is, right? If they could choose anything else from a car, that frees up the road, right? If you want to take a bicycle. And again, a bike lane is not painting a white line and putting a little stick figure on a bicycle. That is not a bike lane, America. And they'll go ahead and they'll spend millions of dollars on a bike lane. I've seen this where cities say we are spending $2 million for a 13-mile bike lane. Really? I don't think you need $2 million for paint or even to pay people to paint a white line. I wonder where that go. Oh, they'll say, oh, it's for beautification, and we're going to put trees and all that. Just make an entire different lane. Some cities have done that, right? I know right down the street over here by me in Indianapolis, right on Ritter Avenue and the Cultural Lane here in Indianapolis, it is a completely different lane. The bikes do not go on the road where cars are, okay? I'm sorry. Bikes are not vehicles, okay? Bikes are considered pedestrians, all right? Adding yourself to a 20-pound steel or aluminum chassis does not make you a vehicle. It's still legs outside of there, okay? And you're not going to be able to move yourself out, okay? Bikes, and I'm talking about sports bikes and motorbikes are different. Those are vehicles. They can move faster, okay? They have more weight to them. Bikes, they're not vehicles, okay? I'm getting sick and tired of people saying, oh, bikes are vehicles. Bikes should be considered vehicles. No, they're pedestrians, okay? You want to know why the U.S. doesn't have good bikes lanes and you're going to continue to complain about it? Because we keep doing this distinction wrong. Every other country that has any logic to them, anywhere in Asia or Europe, okay, bikes have their own different lanes. They're not vehicles. Right. So we got off track with that. But yes, okay, everybody's 100% agreeing with that. Preach. Agreed, 100%. Yes. All right. So that's where we are. So this is an interesting article. So if you guys can see this on WPTV. So you can see over here, let's look at this. I don't know if the screen will be able to show all of it. But yeah, look at this. So they're having a library next to the Brightline station. Yeah, we can see most of it. So this is the existing Boca Raton Public Library. This is West Dixie Highway or Dixie Highway up over here. The proposed parking structure. And here's Brightline. So you can go ahead, get a book, and go to Brightline. And make sure to bring your book back. Having fun isn't hard when you have a library card. For those of you who remember old school Arthur. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, so you can see some of the design, architecture work here, you know, what everything is going to look like. Basically all the same basic stuff that we've seen from Brightline. Bright, modern, minimalist stations. Which, again, you know, for something that's modern architecture, it's not that bad, right? I like the Brightline station. It's if modern architecture were done this way, it would be fine, but, you know. Most modern architecture, the problem is it just has no character. Brightline at least has some personality and character to it. That's what's missing from modern architecture and brutalist architecture. I'm thinking of, because there was a guy that I remember when I was in the high-speed rail, the Midwest High-Speed Rail Conference, what was back then, it's now the High-Speed Rail Alliance. There was somebody there talking about architecture. I would like to bring him on the show because I am sort of an architecture nerd. I nerded out all over Chicago. Definitely my favorite building in Chicago is the Carbon and Carbide building. That would be where I put my secret villain lair. Building trains all over the United States. All right, so let's go into this. Cities are turning to supercharged bus routes to more quickly expand and cheaply expand transit services. So the plan reveals a debate about the role of transit investment. Should it aim to help people traverse urban sprawl or reshape it? So this is coming out of the FTA and out of the new bill that's going out, the American Jobs Plan. So cities are looking to boost their transit options are giving special fast bus routes a fresh look. An effort buoyed by hundreds of millions of dollars in coronavirus relief funds that could get another boost if Congress passes an infrastructure package. And the infrastructure package is, let's see, because I have a Logitech G mouse, which has the forever spinning thing. Whoa, okay, we're spinning off the pages. So here we are. Ready? All right, that's the end of the stream. Good night. No, I'm joking. No. We're not doing that. This would probably take all stream just to scroll through this. I'm not kidding you guys. This would take all stream to just scroll through that at that speed. So we talked about bus rapid transit. I know the Armchair Urbanist did a good video on this. Which, by the way, let's have a little fun with this. We got roasted on Alan Fisher's channel here. I like roasts. I like it when people make fun of other people. It's fun, and we get made fun of. So he made fun of like other channels here, like Adam Something, and City Beautiful. This one was Funny Spice, City Beautiful.
I didn't know it was possible to formulaically personify California liberals into a singular person, but yet here we are.
That was funny. So how did we get roasted? So here we go. Let's go to us.
Oh man! Oh God!
That does it. South America, take it away.
And you can keep it. I know. Some people ask, it's like, do we really roast Florida that much, or do you roast California even more? And frankly, when I look back, I know I have this sort of love-hate relationship with Florida. Again, I mean, you can look behind me, and I have, the little Florida thing right down there. Florida is a bigger state than Indiana when you put it together there, because those are actual, first scale size. Not first scale. I don't have the whole state of Florida in my room. That would be physically impossible in our dimension. But if you look at it, it is bigger than Indiana. But of course, I have a heart there, and of course a heart in Indianapolis. So yeah, I have two hearts. I'm secretly a space marine. For any of you guys who got the Warhammer reference there. But look, let's look at this. So the lines take the humblest form of public transit, the city bus, and supercharge it using a combination of technology, road redesigns, and route planning tweaks. The bus projects are gaining steam as federal transportation officials prioritize modes of transportation seen as more friendly to the environment in the battle against climate change. All right, so let's go off the rails, or off the road for a little bit. We have a little off the rails section at the end, but I've gone on both bus rapid transit and on streetcars here in the Midwest, okay? Just in two cities alone. So in Indianapolis, you have bus rapid transit, and in Cincinnati, you have your streetcar, okay? They brought back the streetcar over there. It's not as robust as it used to be before in the good old days, but you still have one, and now they made it free forever, okay? Because after the pandemic, they had free rides, and they said, we'll just keep it free. It's not like we're really making money off of this either. And most of that really has to do with that people aren't really buying the tickets to go on. They're not really checking if people have tickets on there. The same thing with bus rapid transit. Asking people in the United States nowadays to be on an honor system doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry, but I've seen it all the time when I've ridden on Tri-Rail. I don't know how many people I've seen either once a Ticketmaster comes up on there and you have the security guard with collecting tickets. You see the same familiar faces walking out to the different train, trying to beat them in a little chase out of there, trying not to be sus. I know I brought up an Among Us reference there. Yeah. But look at this. So BRT, some transportation experts are skeptical because many lines that are dubbed BRT only involve limited upgrades to the bus services, which is true. So here in Indianapolis, we have the Red Line, okay? Now, it's better than nothing, okay? But having something better than nothing is the same thing like having, choosing between two evils. You're still choosing evil at the end of the day, right? Not to say that bus rapid transit is evil, not at all, but I'm saying, it's better than nothing doesn't mean it's what you need. And Indianapolis was also another major city that had an expansive streetcar network. Almost every major city in the United States had expansive streetcar networks, right? So, and this is the thing, okay? When you have BRT lines in the United States, they still share the same street, okay? And I've seen it, all right? I've seen it here in Indianapolis, all right? They share the same street, and then when there's a red light, they're still following all the red lights and all the traffic codes and whatnot, okay? It's not like once the bus is coming in, the light turns green to keep the momentum going. And that's also the problem with streetcars here in the United States. I've seen it in Oklahoma, I've seen it in Tampa, I've seen it in Cincinnati, I've seen it in a whole bunch of different other cities, where the streetcar has to stop for the red light and it has to be stuck with other cars. They don't do that in Europe. Okay, and it didn't used to be in the United States either. Okay, there used to be separate infrastructure. In fact, there used to be some streetcars that had their own infrastructure that wasn't even a road or anything like that. It would go behind some hills or buildings or in a park area, or it would be like in between the median of the road where it did not share anything with cars, or cars did not go in and out of there. Okay, you still see that in Europe, and you still see that in other places. I mean, the Brooklyn Rapid Transit had that, where it had like some tunnels, and there's still some transit systems in the United States that have that because they were there, or the city or state spent some big bucks or got some nice Tiger grants in order to make that, and they probably paid a heck of a lot more per mile than what Europe or Asia pays for. So that's really the thing. Some transportation experts are skeptical because many lines, again, yeah, we said that. Many of the projects are in major cities and have cost in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And we've done the study before, okay? In reality, regular streetcars are actually cheaper than bus rapid transit, and not just in maintenance, okay? Even if it when done right, in cost per mile alone, streetcars can be done cheaper than bus rapid transit. So that's the thing. So be careful. If you're in your local area, and again, the only reason why Indianapolis has bus rapid transit instead of streetcars is because Republicans in our states and our state House of Representatives found a way to pass a bill to basically ban it here in Indianapolis, because nobody wanted to be responsible if the project were to fail. Then now you've ripped up a whole bunch of roads, and it's not as simple as just painting over the road instead of having a nice red little bus line. Well, you just paint it back, asphalt color and have cars on there again. It actually goes to show you that no one is willing to go ahead and put their foot in the water and actually be accountable for that. That's the thing. We have a lack of accountability here in the United States. Yeah, tires on buses have to be replaced a lot. That's true, Brian Rock, rail fan. They have to be replaced every single time. Not only that, the engines. You usually have a Cummins 12-liter engine on there. Well, now they have the newer diesel engines that are a lot cleaner than they used to be before, or hybrid buses. Or a lot of bus rapid transit now are just purely electric. I know the one over here in Indianapolis is electric, and several others are just pure electric buses. Again, yeah, electricity and batteries are a lot better than having diesel engines on there for a variety of reasons. But again, you still have to replace the wheels all the time. It's not as smooth. It's not as energy efficient. If you wanted an energy efficient, better way to actually transport people, and also more efficient because it can carry more people, right? A bus can only carry a maximum number of, maybe a couple dozen people, while an actual streetcar can carry up to 100 or more comfortably. Okay, not squeezed up in the bus there. Okay, but there's still places now. And I found it funny because there was a place here in the article that it said bus rapid transit originated in Brazil, so we can call it Brazil Rapid Transit. That's what the joke I was gonna make here. I didn't find it here in the article here. It said it here that it's like it was started in Brazil, which it did. Like Brazil, in the 1970s, in Brasilia, which is their new planned city, which is now not as nice as they were planning on it to be, but that's a whole different story. They plant a whole bunch of bus rapid transit regions, and to be honest, it works better there than it works over here. So I just wanted to bring this one up, and we'll just look at the video. I'm not going to go to the article, but let's just look at the video and then go from there. We're at 9:30, so we're doing all right.
For a year, there's been a shortage of computer chips around the world, and it's crushing the auto industry. And now the Delta variant is prompting the shutdown of some plants.
Well, if you're having trouble finding a new car or you just want other options to get around, Metro Transit's got you covered.
Lauren Melendez is live with how they're rolling out another phase of their massive plan to connect the city.
Hey, John and Lauren. Yeah, we're talking specifically about Metro Next, and that is the agency's initiative that really fuses that modern connectivity with Omaha's growing demand for public transportation. Now, when we talk about the next feature, that's really gearing the city up to be virtually carless. Metro Transit operates hundreds of general routes, plus Orbit and Moby Paratransit, but its connectivity goals aren't limited to just buses.
Whether that's being able to choose to ride the bus or ride a bike or access a bike lane or get on a scooter, use their wheelchair on a sidewalk or walk, just having safe, accessible options is really critical for anyone getting around the city if they don't want to do so in a car.
The agency has a vast vision working toward a virtually carless community, meaning different service in different areas.
All right, so let's be quick with that. Okay, so in the beginning of the video, he said, again, now the shortage of chips. I've been saying this for at least 3 months, okay? And now articles don't stop. In the last 3 weeks, there's been articles over and over again about, there's a lack of computer chips now in the auto industry. There's a lack of computer chips now in the auto industry. BMW has to stop production for a week, or, Ford has to stop production at this because there's a lack of... I've been telling you guys this for a long time, right? So I've been ahead on the news before this. But yes, there is going to be a need for alternatives. And even cities here like in Omaha, Nebraska are looking for other connectivity. Okay, and I believe Omaha did have a network of streetcars.
Or get on a scooter, use their wheelchair on a sidewalk.
So I mean, look, you're seeing cities now are scrambling to find different other ways. And not just, find ways that are ADA compliant, but to find ways...
...for a virtually carless community.
Virtually carless community, right? Which used to be before. I mean, you can see videos and everything back then. People did have cars back in the 1910s and 1920s and 1930s, okay? They were pretty prevalent back then, okay? Anybody who was working at a Ford factory could afford a Ford Model T. Alliteration intended. But... the thing is that planning back then was a whole lot different. And again, it's true that we didn't have the airlines back then. The airplane wasn't nearly as prevalent. I'm just looking at just the cities, okay? Because nobody's taking a helicopter or an airplane to go 13 miles north of the city. I mean, there's probably, there's some people who will take a helicopter, the Richie Riches of the world. But I'm talking about normal, average, everyday people, okay? You had it all, okay? There's footage of it. It was there. It happened. We had cars. We had transit. We had all that. We had all those options. We had walkable cities. But we messed it all up. Well, not, we in particular, but I'm saying we as a country, right?
Meaning different service in different areas. And the key to doing it is options.
Better bus stops, more frequent buses in more places. Potential orbit expansion, potential service types that we don't serve right now.
It's already started with the inception of Orbit in November, the rapid transit line that uses smart technology for faster, more frequent service through downtown.
Right, and that's the thing with bus rapid transit. You can make it as connected or whatever. By saying connected, they have it like connected to cell phone towers, and it's connected to like some rudimentary app of where it's going to arrive and whatnot, and probably half the time it will be wrong, right? As in most places, unless you get some guy in high school would go ahead, which this happened actually in Miami-Dade. They paid this large company to go ahead and make them a timing app, a timetable for the buses, and it was wrong at least 50% of the time. One guy in high school going to college who uses the bus regularly made an app by himself, and it worked a heck of a lot better. And then Miami-Dade paid him like even less than what they paid the large company to go ahead and actually use that program. True story. And I know the guy who did that. So yeah, you can look at this here. This is happening in all the cities. Like you can take Omaha, Nebraska.
There are so many pockets of people that we're hoping to better connect by making an investment in 24th Street.
Like 16-year-old Ayana Williams, who buses through North O to get to school most days.
The times are good, and like they're clean and stuff. Like everything else is fine, but like they need to start maintaining the times, because sometimes I would just sit there and like wait for the next bus to come.
Williams doesn't.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem that plagues buses everywhere in the United States, and that's why most people in the United States, not just the safety issues on buses or anything else about the bus that's usually here in the United States, but the timing on the bus. That's why most people in the United States don't look at buses as a form of transportation. They see it as like, oh, you're using the bus, and they have like a face of disgust. which is why bus rapid transportation is even looked upon down even more, not just by me but other people, because it still has the word bus. Okay, people don't like the word bus here in the United States. Yeah, some people do, but you know what? We can do better than bus.
Have many complaints other than the occasional late bus, and it's feedback like hers that Metro managers say they need to create a carless Omaha. And that doesn't mean zero vehicles on the road, but ensuring Metro improvements can pick up where bikes or scooters leave off. It's a lot of work and requires a lot of partnerships. One of them, the Omaha Chambers Connect Go.
What they're attempting to do is unify the transportation vision so that every mode is considered together, so that we're working kind of on the same page.
So the North 24th Street area is...
And they'll get into specifics about that, but we're not going to get into that. And I know I've said it a billion times. I need to talk more about this little personal transit thing, or these little personal transit options, like these little rentable scooters, like the Lime scooters, or, you know, sometimes we actually had here in Indiana, in Indianapolis, a rentable electrical car that you could take. It was called Blue Indy, and it shut down last year during the pandemic. It was going to shut down anyway, but they shut down early because of the pandemic. And I was actually going to try to see if I can get a ride. Now all over the city, there's all these abandoned little Blue Indy stations and little charging stations that used to be there before, and now they're gone. Or they're just in disrepair, have graffiti all over them, the windows are broken. So that's basically what happens with these little, again, these little personal rapid transit options. The biggest problem with them is that there's nothing set down concrete in the road. There's no accountability set. There's no, here's the thing. Half these things, either they can be stolen, okay? You know, there's plenty of these bikes, these little city bikes that have been stolen in New York.
So the North 24th...
And that's not the biggest issue at all. Of course, theft is something that's always going to happen regardless. It's just a lot easier to do when you have these little rentable city bikes or whatever. The problem with this is that it's not a working transit solution. It's not a mass transit solution. It's just, you can rent a bike, but you don't have this in other places in the world because everybody has a bike already, right? You have some little rental bike stuffs, but they're not saying this is going to save everything. And this is the problem here in the United States. They put this and they think it's going to be a panacea. And a lot of these city managers and city commissioners will go ahead and sign off on this and say, yeah, let's go ahead and pay millions of dollars for bicycles, instead of doing what we actually need, which is, actual real transportation. All right. So, it's 9:38. We're going to go off the rails for a little bit because I was going to go into this article here. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. We'll skip some of the other articles I have, and we have a choice. We can either go one, we can look at this article over here and then go into the comments, or we can two, go off the rails. I have some funny articles over here, talking a little bit more about Elon Musk's loop here, and the Cybertruck now could be costing $1 million. So we can either go off the rails, that'll be number 2, option 2, or we can talk about this opinion, what New Yorkers can learn from Seoul, South Korea, in terms of their metro transit. So go ahead, put in the comments 1 or 2, okay? And right after those articles, we're going to go into the audience, and then we're going to call it a night. So go ahead, you guys have a couple minutes to choose. Let me actually go ahead and put on something over here while you guys are choosing here. There we are. Come on. We'll give it 30 seconds. One for New York to Seoul, or 2 for off the rails. Vote now in the polls below. You cannot stuff the ballot box. No mail-in ballots. Alrighty, time is up. Okay, so let's look at that. Alright, So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 ones. We have 1, 2, 3 twos. Okay, so never mind. So 1, 1, right? Okay, we're gonna look at 1, guys. All right. Yeah, we have enough. We have enough people for a democracy. Okay, democracy with 52 people works. Okay, so let's look at this, and then we're gonna call it a night. So, opinion: what New Yorkers can learn from Seoul. I know this article sort of pains some people. Definitely pains me because I've been saying every single time I'm gonna do a video comparing New York's metro system, and again the whole greater New York area and the tri-state area, compared to Tokyo, Japan's metro system. I know I've been saying it multiple times, okay, and I haven't like the research halfway done, and just looking at it is just daunting. All right, we'll get to that. It will happen. All right, but let's look at this for right now. This is our consolation prize until we wait. So many senior transportation officials in New York compare today's subways, buses, and roads to the condition of the city's transportation system back in the 1980s. And that was the late 1980s, not the early 1980s, because early 1980s New York, they are proud of how much safer, cleaner, more reliable, and better maintained the transportation system is today. But graffiti-covered subway cars and crumbling bridges should not be the benchmark of comparison. And this the author of this article is Philip Mark Plocht. There's a picture of him right there. I have learned so much about New York's transportation system by living in Seoul this past year. You would think I would have known all about this topic since I was once the manager of planning at the MTA, and I have written a couple of books about New York's transportation system. But I've been blown away by the things I have seen in Seoul. Oh, you think? Here are things that New Yorkers can learn from a trip to South Korea's capital. New York does not have bragging rights. I could tell you that from not even visiting, Seoul or New York. Even before I visited Tokyo, I could tell, like, yeah, this is, just look on YouTube. It's night and day. Seoul subway beats New York in the quality of its service, the number of riders, the miles it covers. What is most remarkable about the size of Seoul's system is that its first subway opened in 1974. New York had a 70-year start, and I doubt it will ever catch up to Seoul. No, it won't. Not just in scope. Look, Seoul is a bigger city than New York in terms of size. It's not just like stuck to Manhattan and the boroughs, because most of New York subway is concentrated in Manhattan, at least the nexus of it. But Seoul is a lot easier of a city to build underneath, and it's just. And they're just going to build anyway, regardless, right? I have become spoiled. I have not experienced a subway delay or a broken escalator since I moved here in February. Or going down the stairs. Get used to the stairs in most New York subways. And the dirty stairs, the ones with all the gum all over the place. And the yellow liquid there that doesn't look like you should be stepping in it. In New York, I always added extra time to a trip in case of a subway problem. But I need not do that in Seoul. I like City Bike, but the bike share program in Seoul has about 50% more bicycles, and it's much less expensive. An annual plan costs about $35, and you can ride for 2 hours at a time. City Bike is $179 a year, and you can only get 45 minutes. And again, in some place like Seoul, you don't even need to rent a bike. Most people have bikes there, period. I mean, they're inexpensive anyway, regardless. I mean, yeah, I guess you have to get a bike license in a lot of these countries. Which, seeing how people ride bicycles here in the United States, maybe a bike license is a need. Either that or just beating people who break the laws with batons. That's a joke. You know that. Yeah, the subways don't piss on themselves. That's James Leno here in the comments. That was a good one. I think who was the comedian that said that one? But that was a funny one. Living in a big city with little crime and litter is really wonderful. Yes, it is. My 5-foot-tall wife never worries about walking around by herself, even in a back alley late at night. Oh, okay, he's one of the guys with the Korean wife. When there is little crime, you can only need a $5 bike lock, not 2 locks made of different materials that deter New York's clever thieves. Koreans can even lock up their kids' bicycles at a rack near their local park, not have to schlep them to and from their apartments. That's a very New York phrase. Less crime also means that transit agencies can provide better services, because they have more resources and fewer expenses. That's the thing. In most of East Asia, there's not that much of crime. I mean, yeah, there's some petty crime, and even the petty crime is very few compared to crime here in the United States. Again, different demographic, different people. And they're not going to be doing that sort of thing either. I mean, there's really no need to there. Likewise, it would not have to build fortress-like token booths. It's like getting into a prison, some of these toll booths, the ticket booths in New York. From top to bottom, okay? It's like, you know, some of those, getting into some baseball games. Well, it depends on where, because the stadium here in Indianapolis, at least for it's a minor league stadium, but you can just walk in. There's no gate or anything like that. And there's just like one guy checking if you have your ticket. But I remember going into the Miami Marlins Stadium, and it's like getting into a prison. You have these, top to bottom turnstiles with the ones with the gate behind, so nobody can go in from behind. That's just basically New York. You don't feel like you're going into a safe subway. You feel like you're getting into the underground prison to escape from New York. And maybe you'll find Snake Plissken in there. I do worry what would happen if they had been evacuated. Yeah, the stations in New York. Yeah, that is an issue. I mean, it can be evacuated easily. There's always somebody on the other side of a New York subway that's going to open up the emergency door to let their friend in to get a free ride on the subway. And it'll just ring and whatever it does, a little and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to stop them. The platform doors at every Seoul station make it virtually impossible to fall into the tracks. Or maybe rats to come down there with some pizza that they found over at like a local Vinny's or something like that. I don't know, some stereotypical Italian New York name. They also keep the stations cooler and quieter. The stations have been quite comfortable this past week, even when the temperature above ground reached 98 degrees. By the way, there was an article here which is funny about Japan's Olympics, about the weather that athletes are melting in Japan's heat. I could have told you that from just going there in August. It's an island archipelago, an alpine one at that. So there's mountains, which means all the humidity is going to be stuck. So yeah, it's going to be quite humid and hot in the summer. Okay, it makes Miami's humidity look like you're out in somewhere like in the desert. Japan gets really humid. The platform doors at every Seoul station make it virtually impossible to fall off. Okay, we read that. Navigating can be made much easier. I really don't like these when people say, "Oh, it's too hard to navigate the subway," or it's too hard. Just because it's daunting, just because they've expanded their stations to have stations all over the place, doesn't mean it's difficult. In fact, it means it's easier, because now you can get to point A to point B without much walking. It's easier. Stop this whole entire thing. Oh, Japan's subway system is too hard. No, Japan's subway system and their metro system is just so massive and so interconnected that it's a lot easier to get from point A to point B without much thought. Okay? And especially with these things now, all you have to do is go on Google Maps and go ahead and put where you want to go, put in the transit option, and now you don't even have to think. Okay? Please stop this. If I hear this one more time, I'm going to punch somebody. I can't take this anymore. Navigating can be made much easier. It's not that hard. Seoul taught me that a couple of simple measures can make it much easier to get around the big city. Giving numbers to station is really smart. On the number 2 line near my apartment, station 219, Samseong, is followed by station 220, Seoul-young, and station 221, Yeoksam. I like that every station has exit numbers too. When you're trying to navigate below ground or above ground, a sign that says exit 2 is a lot easier to understand than one that says 28th Street in Broadway Northwest. I get that, the one in New York, but I mean, that's easier. The platform doors also have numbers, which is helpful because some subway navigating apps tell you where to stand and you'll be close to your exit. Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, if New York could do something like that and saying, where the lines can go, because New York's system, again, if you lived in the city or you're familiar with the city, it's not that difficult to navigate, right? And it's not as robust as systems are now in other places now, okay? Because New York's system has lagged behind for the last I would say for the good last 50 years, there hasn't really been anything much major since the 1940s. I mean, you had the Interborough, the Brooklyn Rapid, and different other systems added on and different expansions, and then the city took over. And then nothing much has happened since then. Really, the majority of the bulk of the building happened in the beginning of the 20th century when it was still in private hands. That's just the reality. So let's see. Subway stations can smell great. It's not much to talk about in New York. That's why I always try to like kind of pseudo breathe through my mouth or kind of breathe through my nose and just ignore whatever I'm smelling in there. Especially like you'll have like that one homeless dude that forgot to change his pants. And he's there talking about the aliens coming and taking him. I had no idea. Many in Seoul have shops to buy cappuccinos, snacks, and jewelry, along with fresh-baked treats such as cream-filled buns and croffles. Yep. So that's exactly the thing. These underground networks, these underground subway stations are not just a subway station. You don't just walk down there and go through the turnstile and go to the station. No, you can walk down, and there's a whole network. So maybe there's like one subway station on one side of the street. There's maybe another subway station with another line or network. And again, Seoul is very similar to Tokyo in terms of their subway system, or the metro system in Tokyo, because a lot of Tokyo's metro is above ground. Again, it makes it cheaper and easier, and a lot of it was already built along with the city, so they didn't have to go ahead and say, well, all of the city's already built, so we have to build everything on the ground. They have some stuff built on the ground, but a lot of it is above ground. So you have these, basically they have shopping malls inside each and every station. I've showed you this in the videos when we were in Japan. Okay, it's incredible, and it just goes to show how it was really blackpilling coming back from Japan. It's coming back from Japan and coming back to the United States is like, we're never gonna build anything like this. This country is absolutely effed. It's just looking at it, it's like, wow, it's night and day. It's like another planet than the United States. Some spaces don't have to be icky. Yeah, it's true. So I'm not going to go into that. We know how dirty and disgusting New York is, and it's just getting worse. Seoul's complicated subway map. How is this complicated? It's not complicated. Okay? I want to get here. My destination is over here. Okay? So work yourself backward. Okay? So you got to go there from the green line. Okay? Go from the green line. It goes over there. Station over there. Okay? This actually goes to that station. There. Done. No big deal. Okay? Or if go put yourself on Google. I'm tired of hearing it's complicated. Well, great. Look at that. They have a station. They have, at least 100 different stations here. Okay? It's insane. You can demand more. New York cannot replicate the success of Seoul's transportation system anytime soon because America's transportation agencies operate in a completely different environment. Yes. Korea's national government generously funds affordable and reliable transportation across the country. And again, generously and regularly does that. Okay? Because most Koreans take a train or a bus to work. Because fewer than 5% of Americans do so here. Again, it didn't used to be that way. Americans used to adore public transportation and used to ride streetcars and trains all the time. Okay? The whole American dream is the American dream of living in a suburb with a white picket fence. It's not only dangerous, it's not only bad for the soul and bad for not only for rural areas and for urban areas. Okay? Because suburbs ruin both the rural and urban. Okay? Let's be honest. Okay? I am tired of hearing about suburbs too. Okay? Suburbs are an anomaly created here in the United States. I'm not going to get into who or why it was created, not in this stream, but what happened and why and what it's done to the United States has been disastrous. Okay, it can be a quote. Okay, the suburb and its consequences have been a disaster for Americans. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, because you get rid of rural land that could be used for actual production, for actual food, and for people living in rural areas. And you take people away from the cities, which messes up the communities in cities, where you have people in communities that used to go in cities or used to have, their own parishes or churches or their own work areas, or you had, like in Detroit, you had factories and you had little cities and little, cities built around a Ford factory or a GM factory. Now when everything moved outside of there and people went to move into the suburbs, there was no need for having the factory there. There was no need for having a community there. So GM and everybody else moved elsewhere. Okay? That's what destroys cities. Suburbs destroy cities. Suburbs destroy rural areas. Okay? So let's get enough with the suburbs. We have to get rid of suburbs here in America. People have to choose rural or urban. Okay? It's not good. Okay? So look more of who created the suburbs and what it's done. Okay? It is not American. Suburbs are not American. They're terrible, and it's ruined America. Okay? I know it's controversial to say the suburbs ruined America, but they have. Look at America before, look at America with suburbs now. Okay, so rather than despairing, New Yorkers should raise their expectations and demand that their elected officials do the same. Elected officials do respond to public pressure. Enough public pressure, so it has to be a lot of public pressure. So if enough New Yorkers complain to the city council members about the price of city bikes, the city will allocate money to... Why would you end this with city bikes? Bro, why? City bikes are, again, if you were to do... If you were to do an actual a study, and I'll probably look into that if there have been studies on the ridership of city bikes, I'll be very surprised, okay? And I'll eat my words. If there's actually a tremendous amount of people using city bikes compared to actually owning their own bikes. Because it's the same thing in New York, right? Most of the people on the city bikes are people who are tourists, or their bike is broken, or they're coming in from another borough and they don't want to bring their bike or whatever. Okay, city bikes are rarely used in New York. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. As somebody who's been there plenty of times and who's been in cities with city bikes, nobody uses them. It's mostly tourists. Okay, I've used one myself when I went to New York, to Chicago as a tourist, like 2 years ago when they had the hottest day of the year. It was 100-degree weather. I'm just there in the little city bike that I rented, just going around, going to the fountain and to the parks and everything in Chicago. It was fun. Yeah. GN said Amsterdam learned from their mistakes of car dependency in the 1970s, and now they have the happiest children in the world. Yeah, that's true. Look, it's about communities, right? Why is America's population getting sicker, more obese? They're taking 1 billion medications for the mental health. They're all over the place. The suburbs are a massive proponent to that. Okay, because you don't build communities right with suburbs. Okay, you cannot build a community in the suburbs. What you build is a slim veneer of a copycat, a very shallow copycat of what a community is supposed to look like. Okay, that doesn't happen. It doesn't. No, suburbs are not better than rural and not better than urban. No, suburbs are on the complete freaking bottom. Don't get me started on this. I'm trying to end this. But yeah, public pressure. Look, we've been saying public pressure for a lot. There has to be a lot more than public pressure to actually fix New York. There has to be not only public pressure, but leaders with serious drive, and I mean serious drive, dedication, and enough cojones to actually get what needs to get done. Okay. And that's what New York needs. And they had some people that maybe had something similar to that, but or seemed that they did, but they actually haven't. And it shows. It shows in New York. All right, so we'll end that there. And I do have to go ahead and put out a video for this. I have one video that I have in the works, and then I think this is enough of an impetus to work about. Definitely, there's a lot more that I have research on this, because the article over here, I have plenty of information going into how both systems started, where it started, where the pros and cons are, etc. Okay, so I have that a script halfway done for that. A lot of it is just brainstorming and where everything is, but anyway. And look at that. Yeah, Seoul is surprisingly pretty car-friendly compared to Tokyo, Shanghai, and Taipei. It has very wide streets and freeways from the Mao period that make the skyline look ugly in certain places. They follow the lead of LA for a little bit in the development. Today, Seoul's is better. They tore down a lot of the freeways, so you got to tear down freeways. But you'll see a lot of rich Koreans drive around in Seoul compared to rich Japanese in Tokyo, who are content on taking the train. And yeah, things are different, okay? Koreans and Japanese are different people, okay? So, you cannot just take whatever they're doing and expect it's going to work one for one in the United States. It won't, okay? That's why in the Texas Central Railway is adapting the Shinkansen to work for Texas, okay? And there's some things that, you know, we can all disagree with, that, you know, having the stations outside the city and all that. Okay, that's one thing. But, you know, I can understand why they're putting it outside the cities. A, for cost. B, for the space and where they can find it. And C, because a lot of Texans are most likely how they're going to use the train is that they're going to drive in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or from the Houston area. They're going to drive to the station using the highway. They'll probably get off the highway to get into the station and then take the train over to Dallas or Houston. And after that, they'll go ahead and take an Uber or rent a car at the station to go to the next area, or somebody will pick them up. Okay, that's how it'll mostly work. Or if transit options are actually readily available in those areas like DART in the Dallas area, or if or streetcars or any other form of rail transit, then they can transfer onto there. Okay, but that will be something coming up in the future. What will happen if we demolish city highways? You'll see the cities grow back. Okay, I can tell you now from a lot of cities, because I've driven through a lot of cities in the United States, you can definitely tell a demarcation line where there's basically it looks like, you know, no man's land between what used to be the city and the highway, and then parts of the city that are falling apart. Okay, I'll show you a video of this at some point, so you can see just in like the city where I'm living in right now, just here in Indianapolis. Okay, you're going through on I-70. The interchange now, they're fixing up the I-65, I-70 interchange, so there's only one way that you can get in. But right on there, before you get onto Ohio Street, or right before there, once you get onto the exit, you look to the right, you see all these older brownstone buildings, where, you know, there's still people there and there's still businesses there and everything, but you see exactly where the street stops, okay? And you could tell it used to continue on, and it used to be other buildings there, because you could still see the old plots and the old foundations of where buildings were torn down to make way for the freeways. Then you look on the other side, you see old factories torn down or all messed up. There's some buildings there, there's some warehouses that are trying to come up there, but you can see where the city completely stopped development or was hampered because of the freeway. And it messes up cities, okay? Everywhere. You can't say Koreans and Japanese are different to a common American. No, they are. Koreans and Japanese are different than Americans. They're different. Okay, if Korean's not going to call himself an American. Well, I mean, you have Korean Americans, yeah, and the roof Koreans from LA. Those are definitely pretty Americans. But I'm talking about they're different in their behavior. They're different in their customs, in their culture, in what they do. Okay, a Korean lifestyle is different from an American lifestyle, just as a Japanese lifestyle is different from an American lifestyle. Guys, this should be common sense. All right. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring on into the audience. We have Aegis, friend Eric, out of Virginia. Let's bring him out to invite to speak, and then we'll have maybe one more speaker, and then call it a night. So, Aegis, you have been invited to come on board.
All right. Hey.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going on outstanding as always. Just came back from a coaster trip to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, how was that?
It was good. A good day at Carowinds. Didn't knock all the rides we were supposed to do that day.
Man.
But speaking about Charlotte, I do have something to discuss about with Class 1 railways.
Sure.
I think they should look at Brightline and say, and just look at, maybe do it from a local perspective. Basically, in my idea, you know, like how in Chicago, they get their class ones to also somewhat help out operate like the Metro and
Yeah,
stuff like
Metro.
that.
Yeah, and that's been an issue between but no, I think it was Union Pacific and Metro now that
Yeah.
they've been having a spat.
Yeah, the idea is this. But basically, here's an idea for class ones. Basically, if you want to get more money, basically do something like run the passenger rail service, like basically for cities like Charlotte, because Charlotte's a pretty growing, it's one of the fastest growing metro areas in the world, in the United States at least.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Basically, and recently, Norfolk Southern has not been cooperating with Charlotte's plans for commuter rail because they're not offering any incentives for them to basically do anything about it. Like for example, like what Orlando did this with CSX with the Sun in comparison to Sunrail.
Right, Sunrail. Yeah.
Basically, they didn't follow the Sunrail model, but also, in my opinion, that maybe for companies like Norfolk Southern, they should start running their own private commuter rail service in conjunction with like cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, as well as even Richmond.
I agree. I mean, of course, it used to be that rail lines used to be passenger and freight, and that was no big deal. At this point, this current generation freight railroad executives and VP and the people who run freight railroads here in the United States, they haven't run passenger trains. Something like we've seen with Brightline, that is a completely off kilter, something that has never been seen before ever in the United States. That a currently running freight rail passenger system went ahead and had an offshoot of a passenger rail system. And that, again, the two companies are different. Technically, they both work together. The sister companies, the Florida East Coast Railroad and the Florida East Coast Industries.
And what they do is that they have one they consolidate their dispatch operations to a separate entity.
Exactly.
With 50-50 control. And that's why I think they need to start doing the same. For example, like the state, like for example, like Virginia says that if you want to do a dispatch country, we can just do this as say like create like a state entity like that controls basically the entire dispatches per se, like which gives them which basically takes the hand away from Jacksonville or whatever for dispatching site that they do like in Atlanta.
I agree. And that's the thing, Eric. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say this before it gets off my mind. The solutions that you're bringing about right now are things like that, like incentivizing freight railroads to operate or offshoot their own passenger rail systems, are solutions that are new and that could be entitled to places like this bill. Solutions like that don't exist in this bill. Okay, it's only money has to be done for this, money's going to be given for that, and it's a very generalized what the money is going to be for. There's no given solution, there's no timeline, there's no nothing in this entire bill of 2,000 pages.
It's basically more money for contract leechers.
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, and it's going to be, all these costs are going to go to administrative BS and very little for actual construction costs.
That's the problem with like a bunch of these bills. That's why, in my opinion, like, and you see nothing going to Brightline. It's all of these big Bechtel executives, like you know, like companies like Bechtel and High NRG and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the same building contractors. Yeah,
like it's all these middlemen that are they're basically they're like leeches. They leech off a They basically like. And that's like even like something like a 1 mile project costs like $200 million. It shouldn't really cost like more like $20 million.
Yeah.
Over like in Europe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like Virginia Beach like struck down their light rail program, even though it was surprisingly cheap for American standards, like about $240 million.
For how many miles?
Like 5 to 6. I think.
Yeah, that's still expensive per mile, but in an American sense, that's actually cheaper. And that's the hard thing to come to terms with, Eric, is that these projects are expensive. There's no way they should be, but here in this country, we're used. Yeah, it's insane.
Because you have to go for the same contractors like Bechtel and all these other big companies like Bechtel mostly makes their money off of highway expansion projects.
Yeah, and that's sort of a problem with just free, unbound, let loose free market.
It's the art of neoliberalism.
Yeah.
It's basically Pinochet's pet project.
I would say a little less of Pinochet and just basically it's fully on American, and that's a whole different thing. Again, I can't get into that here in the club because we'll be stuck into a whole bunch of economic systems. But yeah, it's a problem. It's an issue, and it needs to be solved. Something in this bill, what it should have is say, the proportion of administrative to actual construction and operation cost cannot exceed X amount. Okay, and it should be, most of it should be given to operation costs. It should have a cap.
What we do with our fighter programs, like how the F-35 or why the F-22 got canceled.
Yeah, for the F-35 to just spend more money and slush more money.
No. Because it didn't. Because it went over a certain requirement for government for judicial review, and they found it to be too expensive to do in the long run.
Interesting. I've heard different reasons for the F-22.
F-22, and it came out, but going back to the stuff of Charlotte, and if you ever really want to get some sort of electrification, I think that would be the way to go. Is basically give these grants, and not only just that, but hell, even short lines could get those investments and say we'll give you some money, you can you will have to run through a joint operation, you have to basically be you have to be compatible with all of our systems.
Yeah, the only thing here for short lines are just more loans or grants for operational safety and upgrades, but nothing drastic, nothing actually changing or anything like that. It's just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. But at least Genesee and Wyoming is actually doing a lot better, I think, overseas, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do. So going back to another one of my projects was basically doing the article on low-cost airlines. So I'm going to tell you something about that's going to maybe break your deal with Japan. Not all the JR companies are owned by are basically private entities.
Yeah, I know. There's some of them that are, it's partly
Shokoku. I'll tell you this. A lot of low-cost airlines in Japan operate out of low population densities, over in Hokkaido and Shikoku.
Yeah, all the smaller islands or the less populated areas. Yes.
Okinawa is basically as well as Okinawa, which is basically their mini hub.
Yeah.
For all that, via Naha, all that stuff like that. Naha is the most Americanized city in Japan because we blew it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically, if you're not out of Naha, you're either in Nago, which is barely there's Naha, and if you're in west of that, it's basically a bunch of islands that we're in dispute with China and between Japan and China.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Ryukyu Islands and Okinawa and that area in general, a lot of people in the mainland of Japan see that as a completely different country. I mean, even the dialect and language is different over there. But again, it's very separated from the island. It's like imagining Florida, but then Key West was 500 miles away. That would be the Ryukyu Island chain. Yeah.
Florida, to me, Florida man is basically what you think of Florida man is basically anybody from North Florida. And if anybody from North Florida thinks of that, they think of either Panama City or Pensacola.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Florida men in in South Florida too. Believe me.
Yeah, not as I would consider as much.
Yeah. There's different Florida men, the Florida men that the meth riddled ones that do terrible stuff to gators. You'll find those more in Central Florida. The Florida men that find a way to do a car chase upside down. You'll probably find those in South Florida, while high on bath salts. It depends on depending on the region. It all changes the drug.
Yeah, it all changes what you get.
Yeah. But anyway, oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
We can head.
No.
I do feel like there will be some future private companies that may spring up. That could include some international projects. especially like with Phoenix to Tucson, you can get like an extension system like into Nogales, and then put possibly like those long distance Talgo trains you see in Europe.
Yeah.
You could probably do like I know that Mexico, like northern Mexico, is very much not connected to it's more connected to Phoenix than it is to Mexico City. Then.
Yeah, and that's more the geography that it's still part of the United States.
You can do you can sell you can make extra money off of like one of those night trains, like in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you can do even now, I'm surprised you haven't seen a company like you that doesn't like an LA to San Francisco night train. Like you can just go to basically leave around say about 7 at night, and then you'll ride probably around
I think a lot of that is actually going to come about after Brightline. Once Brightline gets to Orlando, and maybe a year after that, once things seem like they're stable and it's actually looking like a successful project, you'll probably see a lot more proposals around the country for something similar, or in terms of rail expeditions or night trains or high-speed rail and rail transit. That will happen.
That's going to prelude California high-speed rail. I think the night train system is basically going to do something like that.
Oh yeah, that could definitely be an option.
That's what happened in Japan. Like if you ever wanted to go to Hokkaido, you had to take the night train.
Yeah, I was actually going to take a night train back from Osaka to Tokyo, but we found out that you can only get the tickets there in Japan. Like you couldn't order them online or anything like that. The ticketing system in Japan is a little difficult to actually for anybody who's outside who doesn't understand Japanese.
Yeah, Texas Central is essentially. Yeah, Texas Central.
Yeah, and it is a little bit behind because they're still using computers from the 90s. I mean, it looks cool, but it's for ease of use, it's not really ease of use friendly.
Yeah,
but
even Amtrak has better ticketing than Japan.
Yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, at least they have the passes and the Passmo and the Suica cards. I mean, that makes things a heck of a lot easier. But even just using the systems to just fill it up is the hard part. But anyway, thank you for coming on, though. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you. I've never time in my life. I feel like I have every time I come on the stream.
Yeah.
For some reason.
It is fun, and we'll have more of these hopefully. Yeah, but thank you for coming on board, man. I appreciate it.
I'll see you.
Take care.
Take care.
Yeah. Florida man is all over the place. You'll even find face-eating men in Miami. Not kidding. Yeah, Darius, it's true. That's Darius. My brother is still down there in Miami. Yeah, there was an actual guy who is high on bath salts that ate a homeless man's face off. Not kidding. Now, that's not all people in Miami. Not all people in Miami are going to speak Spanish and eat your face off. That's not true. And the Sunrise, Izumo, and Seto. Yeah, we almost took the Seto back from Osaka to Tokyo. It was all backlogged. The tickets all the way for 2 months back. Like you couldn't get a ticket on there. So we just said, forget it. We'll just take the train back, and we got a train at around getting out at 10 o'clock and. Around 10 o'clock, and got back to Tokyo right before midnight. Insane. No, I did not have a JR pass in Japan, and here's the reason why. We were only going to be there for a little bit more than a week, and we only took the Shinkansen once. One round trip. And the other thing is that the JR pass, you cannot use it on the metro system. The other thing is I actually wanted to use the systems how they're intended for the people there, just to understand and sort of see it. So I just bought a Suica card, but I still have my wallet. I always keep in my wallet just to remember the good times. So I still have my Suica card here. Let me see if I get it out of my wallet. It's been stuck in my wallet for so long. Here's the Suica card. So whenever I'm feeling bad, when the bad times roll around, I just look at Suica card. I'm like, yeah. Better times, better rail systems. Could always find them. But yeah, I wanted to see how it was actually used. That was really the main thing. It's what? Let's not do any rail passes or anything like that. A, it's cheaper for us, and B, I want to actually use it. The cost difference, a lot. It depends. Again, if you're going to be in Japan for 2 weeks or more, for a month, and you're going to be touring the whole country, not just staying in one city and then like going like one day, 1 out day out to go to another city, then yes, get the rail pass. If you're staying in one city mostly, if you're staying like in just like Tokyo or just Osaka or like in just one of those areas and then visiting another place, I don't recommend you get the pass. It's going to be a lot more expensive, and most metro systems don't take the actual pass. Yeah, the Passmo card is also good. I have the Passmo card because I got it out of the airport. I just have it in my like a memory trunk or something like that. Actually, maybe I have it over here because I have a whole bunch of Metro cards over here. Where is it? I got a Tri-Rail Pass. I got the DC Metro Pass. Luckily, I did not burn to death. I got a Miami-Dade County Easy Transit card. I got the MTA Metro card. Who a certain politician that has tried to run several times for office and has failed multiple times could not swipe this. It's not that hard. I wonder where my Passmo went. I gotta look for that now. Thank you for reminding me, because now I'm missing a Passmo card. Yeah, those are some of the cards I have. I know I have several others in other places, but yeah. All right, let's bring in one more person. It is 10:21. I'm going over time here. I'm going to call it a night. So we're going to pick somebody new that we haven't seen. So we're going to pick new master. Can't see the rest of their name there. I don't know why it's not coming up on Discord. Just coming out as you master C ... So Discord cannot say your full name, but you have been invited to come on board. So come on board if you can, if you want to. All right, no, Holly, you can't just keep coming up every single time. You master Choco, yeah, welcome aboard.
Yeah, actually, I am not technically new. I was in the stream before, but that was like several months ago, or perhaps last year.
Yeah, I think I know your name is familiar, because I remember like Choco, I'm like Chocobo or something, or that's how I remember it. It's like it's kind of come up in my mind now. But how you doing?
Yeah, I've been doing well. I mean, I just took my dad to take his first vaccine today. Finally. Okay.
All right.
But yeah, I don't have a question or anything, but just commentary,
Sure.
I would say that at first, looking at the map of the JR subway line, it can be difficult at first, but if you live there, you'll get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, there's a difference between saying it's complicated to it's daunting. All right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks daunting because there's a lot of stations. But in terms of maybe that it's difficult to get from point A to point B, it's not difficult. I mean, does the system look difficult if it's too many stations and it overwhelms your mind? Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not meant to be a complicated system.
No, it's not. I think the most difficult part is that, especially for colorblind people, or as they won't tell which line is which color.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I focus on the color than the number of stations there is.
Yeah, so let me see if I can bring up a map of the Tokyo subway system so everybody can see here, so they know all what we're talking about. This looks like an older map though. But yeah, you can see some of the lines over here and getting around. Does it look daunting to some people? Yeah, but look, here's a trick to anybody who wants to know where to get from. So if you, let's say you want to get to Hamacho over here. Okay, so you find out where you need to go from there, what station's connected there, and you work your way backwards to where you are, right? So that's what you got to do, work your way backwards.
Right.
Anyway, and look, it's a lot easier. I mean, most of the time over there, I've just used my phone and just went ahead and just put it into Google and just say, okay, where do we have to go from here to there? And in case like the phone ran out of battery or whatever, we at least had like a map and we say, okay, well, where do we need to go and where do we go from there? But it's I think, look, if we had something like this, I don't think we'd be calling it daunting here in the United States. I think we'd all be glad if we had something like this in the United States. Let's say in places like New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, if we had a transit map that actually looked like this.
Right, yeah. And also another commentary is about bike being or not being mass transit, and I say no, it's not mass transit. If anything, I rather call it short transit because it's just literally walking, except you're taking the less time to get to the same place if you're walking.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just, it's like the same thing like people using scooters or some people who still think skateboards are still cool outside of the 90s. I mean, I had a longboard back in Florida, but I mean, it's like, I don't see anybody doing skateboards anymore. But I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, bikes should belong where pedestrians are. Okay, if you're treating them like cars, it's dangerous. I don't know how many times when I was living in Miami or in any other city, every single day there's always a hit and run on a bicycle. And in some cities more than others. Because having it there, it's not only aggravating to bikers because you're kind of navigating through 4-ton steel beasts, and some of these cars are in the United States are big massive trucks. They don't see you, they don't care, and obviously if they're that high up. Seeing somebody on a bike is a little difficult. And then you have some people that just drive crazy and they don't want to get caught or they want to be responsible, and they will hit and run somebody and leave them there bleeding on the road. And B, it's aggravating to drivers because there's a lot of times where the roads can be where bikes share the lane and it's only one way lane forward and back. And then you'll be one car there, and then you'll have, one or two guys in leotards LARPing like they're in the Tour de France, and they're not even going that fast, and they're hogging the whole entire lane. And that in itself is very it's disrespectful to everybody else on the road, but it's just like, look, there's parks where you can do that, there's places where you can do that, and if you had a whole bike lane that was completely separate from the road, go ahead, put as tight of a leotard as you want, and make your voice as high as pitched as you want it to. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and do that somewhere off the road. There has to be a balance, and there's no balance here in the United States when it comes to that.
No, there really isn't. I mean, it's hard to find a balance in anything in life. But so things I've been doing, at least when it comes to transportation, is that I attended one virtual meeting last month for proposal of the new Port Authority bus terminal in New York City.
Good, awesome.
It's only just a proposal. The only thing I did learn is that they still need to get some kind of environmental approval, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Just that I'm not sure if I'll ever get to see it when I'm alive.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing about this. It's like, a lot of us, are still young, but when we look at the timelines for these projects, they put them so far out in the future, and there's no need to be. They're saying, 2035 or 2040 or 25 years from now. I mean, look, 25 years from now, I'll be 50-something. Okay, 25 years goes by pretty quickly. So at this point now, we're building not just for ourselves, like the last generation was. I've talked to a lot of boomers who are rail fans, and they're saying, at least we're trying to build this now. I won't be alive when this gets built, but at least my kids will enjoy it. Well, now us, the kids of the boomers are probably not going to even get the chance at the rate things are going, that we're going to be hopefully building systems for our kids and our kids' kids to hopefully get. But it doesn't even have to be that way, because when you look at places like China and even in Japan, they built these systems pretty quickly. They built them within 5 years, 10 years. It doesn't have to be that long.
Right. I mean, I think the only solution is just to change the way we think about our culture. I mean, it's that I think we will rely too much on the car and just center the culture around that, but it just came to a point where it became a problem in itself.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it wasn't that way before.
Plus, it's kind of a shame too, because the railroad really helped to build America too. Because, oh, sorry, that was my alarm. But like I was saying, railroad helped to build America because, well, first it built the economic, it built towns into the West. It even helped to save this country from being separated during the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it helped to, well, deliver mail, simply put. But but male's male. But so like if anything, we own the railroad so much, and yet somehow it shifted because the government decided to put more money into the aviation cause.
Yeah.
Because that's how they just want to think about economy. People changed. Now there's another shift of change where there's some little people, not little people, but some few selected group are now thinking about the future rail, like such as Brightline, Texas Railway Central, California, although California kind of suck at construction right now. Too long to build it when it should be done like by 2017 or even before the pandemic happened.
Yeah, it should have been done. That's the thing. It should have been done by this point. The whole thing, not just the Central Valley. No, the whole thing should have been done.
Right. I mean, although yes, I mean, it should have been done quite fast.
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's just insane what it is. But at least the thing is that we're now at a point in history where things are changing in the United States. I mean, not just the pandemic. I think things were not just politically crazy, but also economically crazy for a bit. So I mean, it's hard to say, and it kind of sounds terrible to say it this way, but out of chaos, you sometimes do get good change out of it.
I mean, we're Americans, optimistically, we have been through a lot more chaos before.
Oh, yeah.
Since the time of our founding father's time. So, if anything, I'm pretty sure we'll get it. We will go over these mountains. I just don't know how long it will take, but we're eventually gonna get over the mountains.
Oh yeah, I mean, no matter what people want to say about America, I mean, people could say sure that Pax Americana is over or America's a dying country, but the thing that America definitely is, we are a tenacious country and we are a tenacious people. Maybe not as much as we used to be before, and maybe some Americans aren't as tenacious as their forefathers used to be, but definitely there's still that spirit here in a lot of us, and I mean, a lot of the audience watching here. I mean, it's not just the tenacity, it's not just an American thing. It's not just to say that, we have dibs on tenacity for everybody else in the world. But definitely America, more than I would say most other countries, definitely has that principle of tenacity and getting back on your feet no matter what. That underdog principle, you could say. So maybe that's, sometimes we work best is when our back is up on the wall and we're forced to make a decision. Unfortunately, some people have to work that way. It doesn't have to be that way. We definitely could have just kept the system that we've had and kept on updating it and kept on modernizing it, and we would have definitely have, if things were kept up, American Rail Club would just be a rail appreciation club of people taking pictures of trains and going on 250 mile an hour bullet trains across the country and taking, looking at new trains coming out of, every single, a year or something like that, like they have in Japan. But we don't have that. At some point, hopefully it will, and I think that will be a success. But at this point, we have a long, long way to go.
Yeah, I know. If we ever get a railway on a bullet train here in the United States, at least where I live in New Jersey, I hope there will be those snack ladies.
Oh man, yeah, that's the thing. We definitely do need a different culture of people to really take rail and bring it. That's just the thing. It's not just like, oh, we want to go back and everybody wants to live back in the 1950s or 40s or 30s. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we can do a heck of a lot better, and we have done a lot better than we did before. That's the idea.
Yeah, I don't think I really want to live in the 50s, 60s, or the 70s.
Yeah, some people don't want to live back there. Well, definitely not the 70s. I don't want to live in the 70s. The 70s is one of the most terrible frickin' decades ever. I mean, oh god, man, that was like the most decadent, deranged, awful decades I've ever, like, you know, just looking at it is just like, you know, the music, the culture and everything is just, it just looks, the movies just look terrible.
Yeah, personally, I just don't want to be all in black and white.
Yeah, no, the 70s, everything was just, I mean, all the colors and everybody was just on drugs then. And boomers like to criticize that, like, millennials are on drugs, but I mean, they've done studies. It's like, you know, how many drugs did each generation do? And, like, the baby boomer generation did everything. They did everything.
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing that we do more of is antidepressants, and that just goes to show how screwed we are as a generation. I mean, I can't. It seems uncanny to laugh at it, but sometimes you do have to have some gallows humor to get through some of this stuff, man.
Right. Yeah, medicines is a thing here in America. Well, health service, but
yeah. I'm not a big fan of big pharma.
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of getting late, so I should get going.
No worries, man. Thank you for coming on board. I appreciate it.
Right, just only one tip. During this entire discourse call, you kind of seem to get off cut at some point, your voice, just letting you know.
All right, I got to look into that. I don't know if it was the mic cutting off, or was it just that it seemed like it was a microphone issue or an internet issue, if you could tell.
It could be all of the above.
All right, I'll definitely take a look at that, but thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, it just happened again. Okay, well, see ya.
All right, thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
All right, folks, so that is it for our callers, and we're going to look at the comments over here and call it a night. So it's 10:37. So a 2-hour, 40-minute live stream. You guys, it's still 45 people on here, man. You guys just love it. And it's a Sunday night. Man, you guys should just be leaving me in droves. But hey, I mean, hey, that's good. We're all here. We're all having a good time. We're gonna call it a night. This is not a dream. It is happening already. I don't know what that's in reference to, but anyway, yeah. Let's look. Like very simply. Okay, so let's do this just one time so we can all can see it from the beginning. All right. So we have Asakusa over here, right? And let's say I want to get to Asakusa here in Tokyo, and let's go. Let's start at Shinjuku, right? Okay, so let's go over there. So Shinjuku is on this the Yurakucho line. So from Asakusa, I have to go over to Higashi over here. And this is a big station, I guess, so you can go from there, switch over to that station, and take this line, and you can go back to Shinjuku. So that's all you have to do. So from Shinjuku, you just go back over here, get to the station, switch over to this red line over here, and boom, you're at Asakusa. So that's simple, you know? How simple is that, okay? Is that daunting? Is that complicated? Is that complicated to any of you? No, it doesn't seem that complicated. In fact, thank goodness that they have all these stations everywhere so you can get to any place basically where you want to. How incredible is that? Oh yeah, they do have a streetcar. I did not see the streetcar there in Tokyo. I know they have it in some places. It's a fascinating place. It is fascinating. How can we bring NIMBYs around to bring pro HSR? Take the NIMBYs to a foreign country, Japan, Europe, etc. Well, I don't know. You have to take away their RVs and their boats first. I don't know. How can you bring NIMBYs around to being pro high-speed rail? As simple as showing them. And look, the thing is that some NIMBYs are just not going to be on board, okay? And look, the reality is that most NIMBYs, if we were to do a study, and I'm pretty sure this has already been done, most NIMBYs tend to be older folks, right? They tend to be the older generation, right? At this point, they're getting older, and yeah, look, time's ticking for them, all right? At this point, our generation is the majority of the country, and we're very much on board. No matter if we're left wing, right wing, very far right wing that you fall off the map, or very far left wing that you make Stalin blush. Everybody agrees with having, or most people at least agree with having high-speed rail. Most American millennials, okay? It's probably the one issue that everybody can agree on more than 80-90%. Okay. Ivan is saying dump them off in Africa and leave them there. Now, at this point, Africa has high-speed rail. Morocco has high-speed rail, although that's North Africa. But even Kenya, if you want to talk about sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya has, well, not high-speed rail, but they definitely have a train that goes 120. Now, it's built by China, but they have a train that's better than most American states have. Let's be honest. If they're young and ignorant, there's Neds and Nellies. I mean, look, most of the NIMBYs that are younger, they don't get that way because it just happened to be. It's very much a product of the nature around them, right? The nurture around them, right? Okay, so they probably have a boomer dad or grandpa or grandmother or mother that's all like, oh, not in my backyard, that type of thing, right? So that's the thing. I don't know why GN's comment got stop banning comments. Someone's saying take the boomers and throw them into a hurricane. No, that's not right. Okay, yeah, we're not about trying to throw people in gulags or camps here, guys. Okay, it's all about we can do this without any of that. Okay, I know there's some people that want to put people in camps for not doing a certain action or whatnot, but we're not about that here. Okay, not at all. At that point, there'll be something very wrong in every way. But look, it's all about showing the people that can want to change, right? And look, I would say that most boomers are actually pro high-speed rail. It's just that the ones that come out are the very vocal, very small minority of them, okay? Because most boomers I've talked to are fine with high-speed rail, except that, they're kind of still in that silent majority. What you really get is that loud minority that really goes up. And you look, I'm going to say something about this whole silent majority thing. You can't do anything if you're silent, right? If you're silent, it means nothing, okay? So yeah, that comes for us, okay? We majority make up the bulk of the United States population, talking about the millennial generation, all right? So do what, some of the last callers have done. Do what Choco did, the last caller. Go and attend these meetings. They're online now. It's a lot easier to get on there, okay? For those of you guys that complain about, the boomers all the time, they're not going to be on that online meeting half the time, okay? Or half the time they can't even get on there, or they're trying to connect their shoe into the into the computer, or they're trying to get their 4-year-old grandkid to do it for them. So it's what it is. Yeah, that's funny, Torque Train. My wife is from Kenya, and she has been in America for over 14 years now. We are now in Idaho, and not holding our breath to ride a train in Idaho. Yeah, it's Idaho is a beautiful state, but I don't expect a train going out there. Okay, so yeah, it seems like my microphone is coming in and out. That could be something. I think that could be internet, because it seems like here that, well, could be internet, could not. All right, alternatives to state or national parks. I don't know, guys. How you solve that is talk to people, show them the videos that we have, show other videos. Again, videos are the easiest thing you can show people, okay? It's basically giving information for them. You show somebody an article, they're probably going to read the headline and they're not going to read the whole thing. You show somebody a study, they're definitely not going to read it. You tell somebody something and you tell them for a little bit while, they're going to lose interest. You give them a video, they can see that on their own time. Especially something that's as catching as ours, that's nicely edited, that's simple and easy to read, and has nice music, is edited right. At least most of them are edited pretty cool. And something with entertainment value, yeah, people will gobble that up, which is why I'm sticking as much as I can to keep things on YouTube. So, yeah, that's the thing, guys. Look, the future is going to be better. But the reality is, at least for the time being, in most states except for maybe Florida and Texas, things are going to get a little worse. All right, I don't know how much worse, but things will do. And with this bill, this big fat American bill, which has not much of substance except everything that's been already regurgitated a billion times, and not any concrete solutions. Who knows? All right, who knows? But that's where we're at for today. So we're at the end of this long ride, and thank you all for joining us. Okay, again, thumbs up this video so everybody else can see it, so everybody else can know and they can skim along through this. We thank you all for coming up on board.